Chapter 1179. Love to read. 5200 will provide you with wonderful novels to read. Update the latest chapter on medical skills of the Crown Princess as soon as possible. Shrewd. Old Madam was not the only shrewd one in Marquis Xing's mansion. She clenched the handkerchief in her hand subconsciously and thought, Madame Jiang? Madame Jiang has always been shrewd. Does she really know nothing about it? She suddenly felt enlightened. Others don't care about it, but what about Madame Jiang? Doesn't Madame Jiang care about having a co-wife? She stole a glance at Xiao Wanru and found that her attention was all out of the window. Her eyes flickered and she subconsciously hid her thoughts. She didn't want Xiao Wanru to see through her thoughts. He leaned against the fence and his gaze fell on a few large fish tanks below. There were actually water lilies planted in them. Compared to the large expanse of lotus outside, the water lilies in the fish tanks looked more like a slender beauty. They shook their heads slightly in the breeze, their posture graceful. The water lilies are so beautiful. Zhao Shiran praised sincerely. The fish tanks were very big, and the water lilies didn't seem crowded, which made people feel more and more special. Xiao Wanru's eyes also fell on the water lily. Thinking of some old things, she smiled sweetly and said, I thought of it a few years ago. It was originally in my mansion, but I didn't expect that it would come true here. Looking at Xiao Wanru, who had a gentle smile on her face, Zhao Shiran had to admit that Princess Chen in front of him looked extremely happy. If she had not been protected by someone, how could she smile so innocently? She felt inexplicably depressed. She was also getting married, but she had to worry about it, and it didn't end well. She had two mothers-in-law above her, and now there was an unknown one. Compared with the Princess Chen in front of her, her life was simply abyss. She had thought that she knew everything in Xiao Hua's love for her, but it turned out that everything was what she had imagined. Your vats of water lilies are really good. If I had known that they could be so good, I would have also raised a few vats. She forced a smile and suppressed a trace of worry in her heart. It's actually very simple. If you want them, I can give you a few vats. Xiao Wanru said with a chuckle. How can I accept it? Zhao Shiran declined. It doesn't matter. In fact, it's not only in this place. It's also planted in other places, but the opening of the vats isn't this big. As long as sister-in-law doesn't mind. Xiao Wanru turned around with a smile and told Yujie to prepare to send 2 vats of water lilies to Marquis Xing's mansion. For the idea of planting water lilies, Chu Luqin sent a large vat to her soon after she entered the capital city. But later, too many things happened too fast. When she left Qin's mansion, she did not plant a vat. After that, when she went to Marquis Xing's mansion, she went directly to Yuhui Nunnery. Chu Luqin specially asked someone to plant water lilies and sent them to her. He also planted a lot in his mansion. Now that they were placed in different places, Xiao Wanru would think of this warm past at a glance. Thank you, Princess. Zhao Shiran no longer refused and thanked her with a smile. After talking for a while, they suddenly saw a servant girl come over in a hurry and say a few words to Xiao Wanru. The smile on Xiao Wanru's face froze. Then she stood up and said to Zhao Shiran, eldest sister-in-law, please sit down for a while. I'll be right back. Help yourself, princess. Zhao Shiran stood up and said with a smile. Xiao Wanru left with her servants, leaving only Zhao Shiran's servant girl in the pavilion. After sitting down again, she looked out of the fence. Xiao Wanru left in such a hurry. Did something happen? It seemed that something big had happened. She wondered if it had anything to do with her. Since marrying into Marquis Xing's mansion in the mansion, Zhao Shiran was always anxious, which also made her clearly realize that she was just a girl living in a boudoir. Even if her father taught her more than just the backyard, she had no chance to help her now and could only be an ordinary girl from an aristocratic family. She was too naive in the past. Because she was clearly aware of this, Zhao Shiran became more and more dependent on Xiao Huan. Only when Xiao Huan was successful could he take her to a wider world. First Grandma, why hasn't Princess Chin come back yet? Seeing her drinking tea restlessly, the servant girl following her couldn't help but complain in a low voice. Something must have happened. Zhao Shiran was no longer in the mood to enjoy the scenery and frowned. What's so important that it should alarm Princess Chen? I heard that there are no other concubines in Prince Chen's mansion. The servant girl lowered her voice and said. There were no other women in Prince Chen's mansion, not even concubines. It was said that Prince Chen had never been close to women since he was a child. He refused any of the concubines from the imperial palace, whether they were from the Empress Dowager or the Empress. So who provoked Xiao Wanru or alarmed Xiao Wanru? Was it the matter in the front yard? When she was thinking about it, she suddenly felt the bead curtain at the door shaking. The servant girl also saw it. She walked a few steps toward the door quietly. When she came to the curtain, she suddenly pulled it open. When she saw Moyan standing on the side, she couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. What's the matter? Moyan asked. Is First Grandma inside? Moyan was also stunned for a moment and then said with joy. The servant girl knew Moyan. She nodded and looked back at Zhao Shiran. Is it Moyan? Let her in. Zhao Shiran, who was inside, also heard the conversation at the door and said. She originally wanted to ask about Xiao Yanru, but she didn't expect that Xiao Wanru suddenly left. After Xiao Yanru's death, Marquis Xing's mansion only got the news, and then there was nothing else. The people in the mansion didn't even ask about it again and accepted the news of Xiao Yanru's death calmly. Although Zhao Shiran didn't like Xiao Yanru very much, she was disappointed by the coldness in the mansion. Xiao Yanru was old madam's favorite granddaughter in the past. Now hearing the news, old madam didn't even cry a few times, but just said that she was in a bad mood and drove her out. As for Xiao Hua, then, he didn't say anything. He just sighed deeply and said that it was the best. When he asked again, his face darkened. The whole mansion was extremely quiet, as if Xiao Yanru was not the first Miss Xiao whom they had cherished at that time, but just an inconspicuous servant girl in the mansion. Zhao Shiran was very confused. Now that Moyan was here, it happened to solve her doubts. Moyan followed the servant girl into the door. When she saw Zhao Shiran, she knelt down with a plop and said, First Grandma, please take me back to the mansion. Zhao Shiran looked Moyan up and down and asked, Why are you here? Shouldn't you be in the palace? Princess Chen took me out of the palace, but I want to go back to the mansion. Moyan cried. You don't want to stay in Prince Chen's mansion? Zhao Shiran asked in confusion. Marquis Xing's mansion had declined, while Prince Chen's mansion was extremely prosperous. Anyone could see the change, couldn't they? Moyan, the servant girl, gave her the feeling that she was knowledgeable. She was not an ordinary servant girl. Was she really so loyal to Marquis Xing's mansion? First Grandma, I was the servant girl who served the first Mississippi. Even if the first Miss passed away, I still have to worship the first Miss from time to time. How can I work for someone else? What's more, even if Princess Chen doesn't care that I used to be the first Mrs. Servant Girl, the servants around her will care about it. Moyan said sadly. What she said was true. Zhao Shiran clearly knew what had happened between Xiao Yanru and Xiao Wanru. The two of them had fought fiercely at that time. How could Xiao Wanru's servant girl like Xiao Yanru's servant girl? Get up first. I'll ask Princess Chen later, Zhao Shiran said. Thank you, First Grandma. Thank you, First Grandma. Moyan wiped her tears and stood up. First Grandma, I came out secretly after hearing that you came. I can't let anyone find me here. I'll leave first. Go ahead. Zhao Shiran nodded. Moyan left in a hurry. After looking around and making sure that there was no one around, she breathed a sigh of relief and walked back. After she left for a while, Xiao Wanru came back with a servant girl and an old maid. She sat down again and asked the servant girl to change the tea. She personally poured a cup of tea for Zhao Shiran and said apologetically, I was really surprised to hear something from the front, so I specially went to ask about it. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. It doesn't matter. Your Highness is too polite. The scenery here is so good that you won't feel bored even if you sit for a day. Zhao Shiran said with a good-tempered smile. She took the tea from Xiao Wanru, took a sip, and put it down with a smile. I saw a person from a distance just now. It seemed to be Moyan, but it didn't look like her. I felt it was funny. The servants around my first sister are in the palace, so they can't be in Prince Chen's mansion. Did you see Moyan just now, first sister-in-law? Xiao Wanru asked with a smile. Yes, I saw her. It looked like her, but it didn't look like her very much. I should have seen it wrong. Of course, Zhao Shiran would not ask for it directly, so she said it tactfully. It was indeed Moyan. After Xiao Baolin died, she was lonely in the palace alone. At that time, she entered the palace temporarily, so I asked her to come here. Now she is in Prince Chen's mansion. Xiao Wanru did not hide it and said it bluntly. Is she really in Prince Chen's mansion? Zhao Shiran was very surprised and sat up straight, as if she had just learned about it. Yes, she is in Prince Chen's mansion. There are so many people in the mansion, so I don't worry about raising one more. Xiao Wanru nodded. Zhao Shiran looked at Xiao Wanru with hesitation and said, Your Highness, I have an uninvited request, but I don't know if I should say it. First sister-in-law, you are too polite. If you have something to say, please say it. Xiao Wanru said with a smile. The smile on her delicate little face was beautiful and gentle. Can you give Moyan to me? She is always eldest sister's personal maid. Old madam is always sad when she thinks of eldest sister. If she sees Moyan and asks her about it, it might be better. She is old and always thinks too much. What's more, she cares about eldest sister the most. Zhao Shiran said helplessly. If Xiao Wanru did not know that Moyan had been here, she might really believe it. Moyan is a palace maid in the palace. Although she was temporarily given the title of palace maid at that time, she is still a palace maid. At present, she has not completely handled the matter. After all, when all the procedures are finished, she will be sent to Marquis Xing's mansion. Xiao Wanru said slowly with a calm look. End of this chapter. Chapter 1180. Love to Read divided by 5200 will provide you with wonderful novels to read. The latest chapter on medical skills of the Crown Princess will be updated as soon as possible. Thank you, Your Highness. Zhao Shiran thanked her. This matter went smoothly, and he finally didn't come here in vain today. You're welcome, first sister-in-law. She asked to leave the imperial palace, saying that she wanted to offer incense for big sister and didn't want to stay in the imperial palace, Xiao Wanru explained. Your Highness, can I ask, did my first sister really die of an acute illness? Seeing that Xiao Wanru looked fine, Zhao Shiran probed carefully. A good person was gone just like that. If it happened outside the imperial palace, Marquis Xing's mansion would definitely find out the truth of the matter. However, it happened to be in the imperial palace, and Xiao Yanru entered the imperial palace under such circumstances. The emperor didn't favor her and even hated her. How could Marquis Xing's mansion have the courage to investigate this matter? They could only accept the result silently. Even if they wanted to inquire about it, they could only do it secretly and didn't dare to show it in front of others. Xiao Wanru did meet the conditions of inquiring. I don't know about it either. When Concubine De told me, I thought it was fake, but it turned out to be true, Xiao Wanru said. It seemed that she didn't want to talk about it, so she said casually, I asked Moyan about it later, but she couldn't tell me the reason. She only said that there was some dispute. As for the details, she should tell old madam about it herself. Since Xiao Wanru was unwilling to say it, Zhao Shiran didn't mention it anymore, lest he aroused Xiao Wanru's disgust. He had achieved his purpose of coming to Prince Chen's mansion today and got the news of Moyan. He could explain it when he went back. Then let's wait for Moyan's matter to be settled. Zhao Shiran said. Xiao Wanru nodded indifferently and changed the topic. what do you think about the matter between my brother and Infanta Yuan and last time, first sister-in-law? It had been a long time, so why did she mention it at this time? Zhao Shiran was stunned. After thinking for a while, he answered cautiously, Infanta Yuan is powerful, so your brother has nothing to say. After saying that, he sighed heavily. Originally, he just wanted to sigh for a while, but after sighing, he couldn't help sighing again, feeling inexplicably sad. What if I ask my brother to testify against Infanta Yuan? Xiao Wanru asked. Zhao Shiran's face lit up in fright at this suggestion, and he quickly put away the worry in his heart. Princess Yuan was the future princess of Zhou. Even though she had lost all her face today, Prince Zhou would not agree to trample on her face. It's been so long, and we didn't make it clear at that time. If we talk about it now, it will implicate the princess. Zhao Shiran said meaningfully. Of course, Xiao Wanru understood the meaning of his words, and she didn't need Zhao Shiran to explain more. After a moment of silence, she seemed to have made a decision and said, in this case, forget it. I originally wanted to vent my brother's anger. No need, your brother is much better now. Zhao Shiran laughed dryly. She was afraid that not only would she not be able to vent her anger, but she would also lose her life in the end. She would become the fuse of the fight between the two Wangfei. Her life might really be in danger. Now Marquis Xing's mansion was also troubled by internal and external troubles, so Zhao Shiran was not so confident. Seeing her refuse, Xiao Wanru seemed to be a little unhappy. After chatting with her for a short while, she felt a little tired. Zhao Shiran was also a smart person. He knew that Xiao Wanru should have asked him to come here today for this purpose. At the moment, he couldn't agree with her, so he stood up and said goodbye sensibly. Xiao Wanru was a little polite and asked Yujie to send her to the gate of the mansion. After getting in the carriage of Marquis Xing's mansion, Zhao Shiran leaned against the carriage. After thinking carefully about the conversation with Xiao Wanru before, he increasingly felt that Xiao Wanru had asked him to come here this time to let his mansion confront Infanta Yuan. Infanta Yuan had been in a coma in the princess mansion before, but Prince Zhou had given her several noble ladies. It could be seen that the imperial palace was also annoyed with Infanta Yuan. Princess Chen had been at odds with Infanta Yuan, so at this time, she wanted to use her family's power to trample on Infanta Yuan. Thinking of this, Zhao Shiran broke out in a cold sweat. Now Marquis Xing's mansion couldn't afford the revenge of Prince Zhou and raping great elder princess. It was better to huddle up and solve the affairs in their mansion. She was going to find Madame Jiang. Princess Chen failed to achieve her goal, but gave her an unexpected reminder. She was going to tell Madame Jiang that she was going to marry a co-wife. In terms of this matter, Madame Jiang was more anxious than her. After so many years, she didn't believe that her seemingly shrewd mother-in-law knew nothing. If she had a backup plan, she could take it out at this time to stop that woman from entering the mansion. After returning to the mansion, Zhao Shiran went to the study first and told Xiao Hua what she had said to Xiao Wanru. Xiao Hua nodded repeatedly and thought that her response was reasonable. At this time, she couldn't become the sharp blade of Prince Chen's mansion to deal with Infanta Yuan. Without such great ability, she wouldn't even know how she died at that time. It was better for her to suffer this loss peacefully. After such a long time, Xiao Hua was no longer as angry as he was at the beginning. He could calmly think about the cause and effect of this matter and how to deal with it now. After the discussion between the couple, Zhao Shiran went back to the backyard. As soon as she sat down in her yard, she heard from the servants that Prince Chen's mansion had sent 2 vats of water lilies. After thinking for a while, she asked someone to move the 2 vats of water lilies to her yard to show her attention. Prince Chen's mansion sent a few rough old maids, who looked strong at first glance. They were led by a supervisor nanny. After coming in, they greeted Zhao Shiran first and then politely asked where the water lilies were placed. Zhao Shiran sent a servant girl beside her to command them. After sitting inside and thinking for a while, she got up and went to the backyard of Madame Zhang's yard with only one servant girl. The yard was still the same. It was also very large, but it was very deserted. The front door of the yard had long been sealed, leaving only a small side door for food delivery. Zhao Shiran clearly knew that there were only a few servants left inside. No one was willing to be locked up with Madame Jiang until death. People inside could not leave without special reasons. Since Madame Jiang was locked up, Zhao Shiran had never come in again. Standing at the side door, she asked the servant girl to knock on the door. An old maid opened the door. Seeing it was Zhao Shiran, she was stunned for a moment and hurriedly came forward to salute. "Greetings, first grandma." "What is Madame doing?" Zhao Shiran asked. "Madame was just walking in the yard for a walk," the old maid reported. Madame Jiang could only walk or sleep. She couldn't go out of this place and didn't dare to. Xiao Jing had already warned her that if she made trouble again, he would definitely divorce her. Zhao Shiran walked in. This was the first time she had come to Madame Jiang's yard since the accident. No one had taken care of the yard for a period of time. The grass was lush and the ground was covered with branches and leaves. Standing in the yard, she didn't go to the main room. Madame Jiang had already received the news and came out with a servant girl. After coming out, there were only 2 or 3 servants left in the yard. "What are you doing here?" Madame Jiang stared at Zhao Shiran unhappily. This daughter-in-law was also unlucky to vent her anger on her current situation. If it weren't for her, she would still be Madame of Marquis Xing. How could she fall into such a situation? Fortunately, she still had Ru-er. When Ru-er became successful, she would ask her son to divorce her daughter-in-law. "Greetings, mother." Zhao Shiran stepped forward and saluted. "If you have something to say, just say it. Don't come here if you don't have anything to say." "I hate you," Madame Jiang said coldly. Standing on the steps, she raised her head and looked at Zhao Shiran coldly. "Mother, I do have something to say, but I don't know whether I should say it or not," Zhao Shiran said euphemistically, looking very embarrassed. "If you have something to say, just say it. If you have nothing to say, don't talk nonsense. Who are you trying to show off? I'm not Huan, so I don't think you have a good character. At that time, I was blind and thought you were a good wife. I didn't expect you to be a spendthrift. Our mansion is really unlucky to marry you." Madame Jiang scolded loudly and poured all her anger on Zhao Shiran. She scolded him as harshly as possible. Zhao Shiran held the handkerchief in his hand tightly, for fear that he couldn't bear it if he couldn't control himself. Madame Jiang's vicious and mean face really made him angry. If it wasn't necessary, he really didn't want to see her. He lowered his head slightly to hide the anger at the bottom of his eyes. He suppressed the anger in his heart and said, "Mother, do you know that father is going to marry a co-wife?" "Marry a co-wife? You'd better marry a co-wife. Let Huan marry a competent co-wife as soon as possible, so that you..." Madame Jiang scolded him casually. After a few words, she suddenly came to her senses and raised her eyes, almost forming a triangle. "What did you say? Who will marry a co-wife? Who will marry a co-wife?" She raised her voice at the last sentence and it was sharp and ear-piercing. "Father wants to marry a co-wife. He said that she was raised outside for more than 10 years. She is a young lady from an aristocratic family. She met father when she was in trouble. Now father wants to bring her into the family as a co-wife." Zhao Shiran calmly looked at Madame Jiang's almost twisted face and felt a sense of satisfaction rising in his heart. She wanted Xiao Huan to marry a co-wife and even said that she wanted him to marry her. Now it was her turn. Let's see how she would deal with it. A young lady from an aristocratic family. I knew that Xiao Jing had a mistress outside. I don't know who he hooked up with. How dare he say that she is a young lady from an aristocratic family? Madame Jiang scolded loudly. She was so angry that her nose was about to emit smoke. She had long felt that Xiao Jing had a mistress outside, but she never found out. She didn't expect that this lowly woman would want to marry into the family at this time. I am the main wife. If I don't agree, this lowly woman can't marry into the family. Madame Jiang wished that Xiao Jing could be in front of her at this moment. She wanted to pounce on him and bite off his flesh. Then she would beat that woman and send her to that despicable place. Mother, you are not the main wife now. You are a co-wife. Seeing Madame Jiang, who was almost mad with anger, Zhao Shiran added fuel to the fire. He didn't have a main wife, but had two co-wives, which was unreasonable. She didn't mention it in front of Xiao Wanru, and Xiao Wanru didn't mention it in front of her either. But both of them understood it. There was always one main wife and one co-wife. How could there be two co-wives? It seemed to be unsolvable in theory. End of this chapter. Chapter 1181. Love to read. 5200 will provide you with wonderful novels to read. Update the latest chapter on medical skills of the Crown Princess as soon as possible. Of course, this was only in theory. Madame of Jiang's face turned blue, green, and then became gloomy. She bit her lower lip hard and almost cut into it. Xiao Jing. Zhao Shiran lowered his head and stood quietly. He had said what he wanted to say. If Madame of Jiang was not really crazy, she should know what he meant. It was impossible for him to have two equal wives, and it was Madame of Jiang who took the position of equal wife first. But what if something happened to Madame of Jiang? Then was there any reason not to let that woman marry? She had a good status. She came from an aristocratic family and gave birth to a daughter. This daughter should not be engaged yet. The misses of Marquis Xing's mansion were all good-looking, so this one should also be good. Compared with Xiao Yanru, who had disappeared, she might be more promising. Duke Xing's mansion had always been ambitious. With these conditions, if old Madame did not object and her father-in-law insisted on bringing her in, others could not say anything. Xiao Jing. Xiao Jing, you bitch. Madame of Jiang scolded him fiercely, and her voice became colder and colder. She wished that Xiao Jing could appear in front of her now. She would definitely scratch his old face. She had been working hard to manage the affairs for him in the mansion, but he really kept a woman outside for so many years. Even at this time, he even wanted to push her down to give way to this woman. Originally, with her children, especially her daughter, Madame of Jiang thought that Xiao Jing would not really push her down. She thought that her daughter would definitely let her return to the position of legal wife in the future. After being locked up, she had no news. Everything outside was blocked by Xiao Jing, so she did not know that Xiao Jing would do this now. Ask Xiao Jing to come to see me. Madame of Jiang said angrily and walked to Zhao Shiran in a few steps. Mother, this. I can't do it. I came to see you today secretly. I can't let my father know, or he will not spare me. Zhao Shiran shook his head and refused. She had long thought that Madame of Jiang might instruct her, so she was not surprised by her words. But she could not really go to see Xiao Jing. As a daughter-in-law, even if she was not satisfied, she could not really go against her father-in-law. Pa! The heavy slap made Zhao Shiran take 2 steps back and almost fall. Fortunately, the maid beside her hurriedly supported her. You are useless. If I had known that you were so useless, I would not have let Huan marry you. Any miss from any mansion would be better than you. Look at what happened after you married into the mansion. The whole Duke Xing's mansion was ruined because of you. The whole mansion is full of losers. Huan is really unlucky to marry you. Madame Jiang pointed at Zhao Shiran and cursed, viciously pushing all the blame onto Zhao Shiran. Zhao Shiran stood ramrod straight. After listening to Madame's scolding, he coldly said, if mother only knows how to scold me, then I won't come anymore. Mother, take care of yourself. After saying that, he turned around and was about to leave. Hold on. Before Madame could finish her words, she saw that Zhao Shiran was about to leave. She took a few steps forward, grabbed Zhao Shiran's hand, and pulled him back fiercely. You go find someone. Who? Zhao Shiran lowered his head, didn't look at Madame Jiang, and didn't struggle. Madame Jiang had run the Lord Protector's mansion for so many years, and it was impossible that she only had a few trusted subordinates on the surface. Now it was just inconvenient for her to see others. Go find Nanny Wang, who is in charge of flowers and trees in the inner courtyard. Speaking of this, Madame Jiang looked at Zhao Shiran suspiciously. She didn't trust Zhao Shiran very much, but now there was no one else she could rely on. Even her son didn't come to see her. At present, except for Zhao Shiran, there was no one else she could rely on. Go find Nanny Wang and ask her to investigate this matter. She is just a servant in charge of flowers and trees. What's the use of her? Zhao Shiran asked calmly. The servants in charge of flowers and trees, even the nanny in charge of the inner courtyard, should be better than Nanny Wang in charge of flowers and trees. Why did Nanny Wang in charge of flowers and trees have this ability? She had been in the mansion for so long that she knew all the famous servants in the mansion, but she had never cared who this Nanny Wang in charge of flowers and trees was. It could be seen that she was not a useful servant. Don't worry about whether she is useful or not. Just pass the news to her and ask her to investigate it. She is in charge of flowers and trees. The flowers and trees in the mansion need to be added or grafted from time to time. It is much more convenient for her to be in charge of flowers and trees in the mansion than in other inner courtyards. I have asked her to investigate this matter before, but she didn't find anything at that time. Madame Jiang gritted her teeth and said with hatred. She remembered that when she was locked in the family temple, Xiao Wanru had said that Xiao Jing had an affair. She didn't believe it at that time and wanted her son and daughter to investigate it. At that time, she had a conflict with her daughter. Her daughter didn't come to see her, but her son came, but her son said that she was making groundless accusations and didn't believe it. Later, although she agreed to investigate it, she probably didn't take it seriously. She asked Nanny Wang to investigate it in private. At first, she said that she didn't find anything, but Madame Jiang didn't believe it and asked Nanny Wang to continue to investigate. After that, things happened one after another, so she forgot about it and didn't ask Nanny Wang again. Yes, mother, then I'll go back first. Zhao Shiran said calmly, as if she was not the one who had been slapped by Madame Jiang before. Okay, you must tell me if there is any news. When Ru rises to a high position in the future, I will not forget the benefits you have given me and will not blame you anymore. Madame Jiang said, showing that she wanted to reconcile with Zhao Shiran. Her expression also softened a little, and she looked like what she used to be. She just thought for a while and found that except for Zhao Shiran, she couldn't find anyone to help her. If Zhao Shiran could stand on her side, even if she was locked up, she shouldn't be so isolated from the news. Yes. Zhao Shiran didn't say that Xiao Yenru had an accident. After bowing to Madame Jiang, she left with her maid. Standing outside the wall, Zhao Shiran looked at the tightly closed side door and reached out to touch her hot face. There was a trace of hatred on her face. How could she have no grudge? Not to mention that Madame Jiang had scolded her so many vicious words when she saw her, she couldn't really reconcile with Madame Jiang because she hurt her child. In fact, it was better for Madame Jiang and that woman to have an accident or die. First Grandma. The maid looked around and timidly reminded her that it was not appropriate to stay here any longer. If someone saw them and reported it to Master Ho, it would be troublesome. Zhao Shiran nodded and returned to the yard with her maid. The water lilies in the yard had been placed. The old maid sent by Prince Chen's mansion was teaching the experience of planting water lilies to the maids in her yard and helping them carefully remove a few withered leaves. Seeing Zhao Shiran come in, they immediately stepped aside and said goodbye to Zhao Shiran. Zhao Shiran nodded with a smile and asked them to express their gratitude to Xiao Wanru. She couldn't tell that she had been beaten just now. When she entered the door just now, she had asked her maid to see her face. Although her face was a little red, it was not really swollen. No one would notice it if they didn't pay attention. In the Marquis's mansion, no one would expect that she, the first grandma of the Marquis's mansion, would be beaten. After a few polite words, she asked someone to send the servants of Prince Chen's mansion away. Sitting in the room, she held a handkerchief and pondered. Outside the window, there happened to be a tank of water lilies standing gracefully in front of her. As the wind blew, they rose and fell gently, elegant with a hint of charm. Zhao Shiran suddenly sneered and gently pressed the corner of her mouth with a handkerchief. There was nothing on her face, but the corner of her mouth, but there was a faint smell of blood. Just now, Madame Zhang's slap made the corner of her mouth slightly split. Find Nanny Wang in charge of flowers and trees. She pressed the corner of her mouth, which hurt faintly. Yes, I'll find her right away. The maid answered and left. Zhao Shiran, who was sitting alone in the window, suddenly laughed. When the first grandma of Marquis Xing's mansion came back, her face was a little red, and her hairpin was a little loose. I thought that she had been slapped. The old maid reported. Xiao Wanru thought for a moment and asked, did she go out for a long time? About 10 minutes. The old maid thought for a moment and said. They were going to leave after letting go, but when they saw the first grandma go out, they deliberately stayed and deliberately talked to the maids and old maids of the Marquis's mansion about the precautions of planting water lilies. They talked so enthusiastically that the maids and old maids didn't notice that a long time had passed. They didn't leave until the first grandma came back. About 10 minutes were enough for Zhao Shiran to go to Madame Jiang's courtyard. In this mansion, only Madame Jiang would hit Zhao Shiran. At the moment, old Madame couldn't take care of herself and Xiao Yanru, so she didn't have the mood to pay attention to Zhao Shiran, let alone directly hit him. It was impossible for Xiao Jing to do it, so only Madame Jiang could do it. As expected, Zhao Shiran kept what she said today in mind. She slightly raised the corner of her mouth and waved her hand. You can leave. As soon as she reached the door, she almost bumped into Qing, who was rushing in. Fortunately, Qing reacted quickly. She grabbed the old maid and pulled her to the opposite side, so that they didn't really bump into each other. After letting go of the old maid, Qing hurriedly lifted the curtain and walked in. Your Highness, I got it. When Zhao Shiran was in the prince's mansion, Xiao Wanru left for a while. This was Xiao Wanru giving Moyan a chance. But later she really had something to do, so Moyan met Zhao Shiran. However, after she left, she heard something. She didn't know whether it was true or not, so she specially asked Qing, to go out of the mansion to inquire about it. Now there was news. How is it? Xiao Wanru raised her watery eyes and asked. Your Highness, it's true. When Princess Yuyan went to see Infanta Yuan, then, she was bitten by a dog in Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion. When she was chased, she fell from the rockery. I heard that her leg was also injured. Qing smiled brightly. She was very happy about Princess Yuyan's misfortune. Xiao Wanru also smiled and gently covered the corner of her mouth with a handkerchief. She was also very happy. Princess Yuyan had plotted against her as soon as she entered the capital city. She had reaped what she had sown. She didn't expect that there would be such a show now. She and Infanta Yuan were like good sisters who had been separated for many years. Later, they passed the buck to each other. Now they even lost the superficial affection, which was really gratifying. She knew that Infanta Yuan kept a pet dog. When she held Chu Liuchen's oversized pet cat in her arms, Infanta Yuan had mentioned it. Your Highness, why did Princess Yuyan go to Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion? Didn't she fall out with Infanta Yuan before? Yujie heard it at the door and came in with a cup of tea with a smile. The people around Xiao Wanru all felt relieved. She wants to make up with Infanta Yuan then. Xiao Wanru said indifferently. Her long eyelashes fluttered twice and her pink cherry lips raised. In the capital city, Princess Yuyan's strength could be greatly improved with the help of Infanta Yuan. However, although Infanta Yuan and Ruiping Great Elder Princess didn't like Princess Yuyan, they wouldn't embarrass her like this, right? There seemed to be something mysterious about it, right? Sure enough, this matter was confirmed during dinner time. End of this chapter. Chapter 1182. Love to Read divided by 5200 will provide you with wonderful novels to read. Update the latest chapter on medical skills of the Crown Princess as soon as possible. Did you ask someone to do it? Will it be discovered? Xiao Wanru looked at Chu Luqian with her bright eyes. She was a little surprised, but she felt that it was normal. She felt warm in her heart and slightly raised the corners of her mouth. She couldn't hide her good mood, which was very obvious. Obviously, she was pleased. Don't worry. No one will find out. Yuan and will fight with Princess Yuyan after he wakes up. It's a light punishment for her. Chu Luqian said indifferently. The smile on his face was handsome, with a sense of leisure and charm. He just looked at Xiao Wanru, making her blush. He never forgot to show his charm at any time. Anyone who saw him for the first time would feel that he was like an immortal from heaven. He not only looked like him, but also looked like him in spirit. How could such a person scheme against others? However, he looked gentle and kind, but he was absolutely cruel and merciless. But she liked him. He could do this for her. In fact, she liked him more than that. She knew that he did it for her. No matter how bad Princess Yuyan was, she had been demoted to such a state. However, as the princess of a country and the dignity of the Su country, he couldn't really do anything to her. After all, she was fine. But the dog, won't it find out anything? Xiao Wanru thought for a while and asked again. She was still a little worried. Ruiping Great Elder Princess was not so easy to deal with. Moreover, it happened in her mansion. If the dog behaved strangely, it would be easy to find out later. The dog does have something wrong, but it can't be blamed on me. Yuan and had such an idea and specially asked someone to buy the medicine, but he didn't have time to use it. Chu Luqian reached out to hold her white and tender little hand, pinched it gently, and said indifferently. So he just took advantage of the situation. Xiao Wanru breathed a sigh of relief. Suddenly, she thought for a while and smiled sweetly. Even if it was not going well, Chu Luqian would have asked Infanta Yuan and to come up with such a wonderful plan. She held Chu Luqian's hand backhandedly, and her black and white eyes became more and more charming, which made her stunning face even more attractive. How could she not be touched to have such a person who wholeheartedly protected her? I may go to Marquis Xing's mansion again in a few days. Don't worry. I'll be fine this time. Xiao Wanru said and stole a glance at Chu Luqian. As expected, she saw Chu Luqian's face turn cold. Since Xiao Wanru came back from Marquis Xing's mansion last time, Chu Luqian had opposed Xiao Wanru going to Marquis Xing's mansion. He also said that if old Madam of Marquis Xing's mansion insisted that she go, she could blame it on him or say that she was not feeling well. Anyway, with her identity and what Marquis Xing's mansion had done to her, no one would say anything even if she kept saying that she was not feeling well. Now was different from the past, and the time had come. Although Princess Chen came from Marquis Xing's mansion had been very unkind since they recognized her. Not to mention that Madame Jiang, the second branch of Marquis Xing's mansion, repeatedly framed her. Even old Madame had never treated her as her biological granddaughter. She either forced or hated her. Such a rumor had been deliberately spread by Chu Luqian, and almost everyone knew it. Moreover, it was Princess Chen who pleaded for old Madame's return. However, after old Madame came back, the first thing she did was to rebuke Princess Chen, which made Princess Chen so sad that she couldn't bear it and fainted on the spot. After that, it was the people of Prince Chen's mansion who brought the fainted Princess Chen back to the mansion. There were so many such things, some of which were known to everyone, and some were unknown to them. Now they were strung together, and the more they talked about it, the more they felt that it was true. Everyone vaguely had such a saying. Now when all the things were connected, it was true that Marquis Xing's mansion did not like Princess Chen at all, nor did they like her. How could she go to the nunnery after being recognized at such a young age? Princess Chen was really pitiful, and Marquis Xing's mansion was so hateful that they didn't even intend to recognize their own flesh and blood. Under the intentional guidance of others, the rumor had basically become one-sided. The so-called elders being unkind had become a one-sided saying. Since the elders were unkind, how could they ask the younger generation to respect them? Moreover, even the Empress Dowager had rebuked old Madam, which showed that she hated her very much. This made people even more afraid to say anything. Did they want to make the Empress Dowager angry? There are indeed some things that I can't avoid. At most, I will go there to visit them and bring more people with me. You know, they can't do anything to me. Xiao Wanru shook Chu Liuchen's hand. Knowing that he was worried about her, she said coquettishly, I will be fine. They will be the ones who will be in trouble. Will you really be fine? Chu Liuchen's face softened slightly. I promise that nothing will happen. Xiao Wanru nodded with a smile. She was so obedient and soft that Chu Liuchen's face softened a little. Of course, he knew that Xiao Wanru was not the kind of flower that needed to be raised in a greenhouse, but he was still worried. He always wanted to keep Xiao Wanru by his side and even felt that it was better to keep her by his side. If there is anything, remember to tell me. He told Xiao Wanru again, gently kissed her pink little face, and said in a voice like a spring breeze. Xiao Wanru felt as if she was soaking in a warm spring. She took the initiative to lean against him and gently closed her eyes. Sensing that his hands were hugging her back, she felt relieved. Marquis Xing's mansion would not be peaceful in the future. She would definitely go to Marquis Xing's mansion. Not only the second branch, but also the third branch. Since the third madam had the intention to surrender, she would also give her some advice and let her propose to separate from the family at the most appropriate time. Yi Yang had a new identity, which was arranged by her maternal grandmother. She was a miss of an aristocratic family who had been separated from her relatives and wandered outside. In order to repay her kindness, she became an unnamed mistress with her benefactor, which was extremely pitiful. This Yi Yang was good at making trouble. From time to time, she went to her maternal grandmother and tried to get close to her maternal grandmother. In fact, although it was her maternal grandmother who arranged for her to be found, it was an old maid in the imperial censor's mansion who accidentally found out that she was the daughter of that imperial censor. After that, she had such an identity. Since she had this identity, Yi Yang had also come to Prince Chen's mansion, but was sent away coldly by Xiao Wanru. After that, she went to Rui and Great Elder Princess's mansion. Great Elder Princess met her, but she just casually asked about her situation, asked someone to give her some clothes, and then let her go back. Compared with Xiao Wanru's approach, Rui and Great Elder Princess was much kinder and closer to her. She was easier to get along with and always wanted to get close to Rui and Great Elder Princess's mansion. Of course, Xiao Wanru knew these news. She was waiting for an opportunity now. Did something happen to Princess Yuyan? Xiao Jing pressed his hands impatiently and put his hands on the table, feeling upset. He had thought that Princess Yuyan's matter was a pawn for him and even wanted to secretly contact Princess Yuyan. He didn't expect that Princess Yuyan would have an accident when he had just sent someone to probe her a little. Moreover, it happened in Rui and Great Elder Princess's mansion. It's like this, Marquis. Master means that you should not act rashly, lest you cause other trouble. Master has been very angry because you have failed repeatedly before. The guards were not the guards of the Marquis's mansion, but the guards of Prince Cheng's mansion. Although they were now in Marquis Xing's mansion, their main responsibility was not to protect the safety of Marquis Xing's mansion. Prince Cheng deliberately sent his men to Marquis Xing's mansion. On the one hand, he wanted to help Xiao Jing, and on the other hand, he wanted to keep an eye on Xiao Jing. Xiao Yanru's plan this time was interfered with by Prince Cheng, but on the surface, it seemed that Chu Luyue and Chu Liuzhou were related. The situation in the imperial court had developed to this extent, so Prince Cheng couldn't bear it anymore. He was afraid that if he continued to bear it, all his years of forbearance would be in vain and he would waste his good time in vain. After so many years since his youth, Prince Cheng felt that he was a man who could bear it. I know. I won't ruin your plan, but you agreed to contact Princess Yuyan's people before. Xiao Jing was very worried. But now you have failed. The guard said impolitely. It's not that I failed. It's that Rui, a great elder princess, is so stupid that she actually asked her granddaughter to deal with Princess Yuyan. Hearing the guard's displeased words, Xiao Jing said angrily. He stood up and paced twice on the spot. This great elder princess was not a good person. Rui, a great elder princess, was like this, and so was Rui, a great elder princess. They were really troublesome. Infanta Yuan was the future princess show, so she did things without thinking. When Rui, a great elder princess, went to the imperial palace to ask for forgiveness, although she said it was an accident and promised to cure Princess Yuyan's injury, when compared with what had happened before, everyone felt that it was not an accident. It was an accident. It was really a lie. Why did that pet dog have to bite Princess Yuyan? It even chased after her and bit her instead of biting others. Did it think that everyone else was stupid? Princess Yuyan was very annoying, but now Xiao Jing wanted to win her over. It was not difficult to do this. Princess Yuyan arrived in the capital city and was now isolated and helpless. If Xiao Jing secretly reached out to her, she would definitely take it. Unexpectedly, only a few days later, she was lying in bed and couldn't get up. What a useless person. Xiao Jing was furious. Marquis, you'd better deal with the matter of your mansion's Mississippi. This is the letter she asked you to send. Marquis, you will understand after reading it. The guard took out a letter from his bosom and handed it to Xiao Jing's table without much respect. Okay, I got it. Xiao Jing was so annoyed that he directly waved his hand. The guard retreated. When he walked to the door, he suddenly stopped and looked back at Xiao Jing. Marquis, if you don't do it quickly, it will be your mansion's miss who will suffer. His words reminded Xiao Jing of something unpleasant and his face turned cold. I got it. There was a surge of anger in the bottom of his heart. His daughter was supposed to be the empress, but now she had to sneak out without knowing why. If her status was not equal, she could only become Prince Cheng's concubine in the end. Even if Prince Cheng ascended the throne in the future, his daughter could at most be a low ranking. Thinking of this, he became more and more annoyed. He had to get his mother into the mansion as soon as possible and let Madame of Jiang die in Xiao Wanru's hands. He opened the letter and found that it was indeed a letter from Xiao Yanru. At the beginning of the letter, she reported that she was safe and had left the imperial palace safely. Then she urged him to do it quickly, which made Xiao Jing angry and annoyed. If he could do it quickly, why wouldn't he do it quickly? But now he couldn't do it at all. Then, he suddenly read the last part and his eyes lit up. There was such a thing. He didn't know it before. If there was such a thing, it would be easier to deal with some things. He picked up the letter and read it carefully again. After understanding the meaning of it, he was overjoyed. The Deputy Prime Minister's mansion was right next to him. He could ask someone to open the side door of that mansion quietly. End of this chapter. Chapter 1183. Love to Read divided by 5200 will provide you with wonderful novels to read. Update the latest chapter on medical skills of the Crown Princess as soon as possible. The night fell, and it was very dark. There was no moon tonight. Two figures quietly walked to the place where the Deputy Prime Minister's mansion and Marquis Xing's mansion were connected, without lanterns. This place used to be the place where the two mansions were connected, but it was blocked later. But now there was a small hole here, and there was even a faint light on the opposite side, diluting the darkness here and making the road here clearer. Gu Shishu was flustered, and her beautiful face was pale in the night. She almost fell down while walking. Fortunately, the maid beside her guarded her tightly and pulled her from time to time. She was very familiar with this place when she was young, and people often came along this road. If she wanted to go to Duke Xing's mansion, she would go to Duke Xing's mansion, and if she wanted to go to Deputy Prime Minister's mansion, she would go to Deputy Prime Minister's mansion. But after so many years, she almost never came here again. On the one hand, it was already remote, and basically no one would come here. On the other hand, she didn't want to remember some distant past. It was better to forget it and no one knew it. Only Xiao Yanru knew this. If this person was not Xiao Yanru, Gu Shishu would definitely want to kill her. How could she not want to kill this insider and think of a way to make her fall into the river and drown? But this person was Xiao Yanru, and she couldn't deal with Xiao Yanru. Gu Shishu was very clear about this. After suffering a few losses and being trampled on by Xiao Yanru, Gu Shishu clearly realized this. Since then, she didn't dare to do anything to Xiao Yanru. This matter also became a secret between her and Xiao Yanru. In order to cover up this secret, she helped Xiao Yanru several times. She had to do this. She couldn't defeat Xiao Yanru, so she could only listen to her. When the news of Xiao Yanru's death came, Gu Shishu was so happy that she wandered around the courtyard for a day and smiled at everyone she saw. From then on, no one knew about this matter and no one would threaten her with this matter. This was her weakness. However, after a few days of happiness, there was a message from Marquis Xing's mansion asking her to come here and vaguely mentioning what had happened in the past. How could Gu Shishu dare to refuse? The more she walked here, the more flustered she became. Wasn't Xiao Yanru dead? Who else knew about this? Could Xiao Yanru's ghost come to find her? Thinking of this, she thought. Could it be that Xiao Wanru's ghost came to find her? When he finally made it here and saw the light coming from the opposite courtyard, he took a few deep breaths and wiped the sweat off his forehead with a handkerchief. This area had been blocked before, and a few bricks had been laid. She had Xiao's Xiao had been Xiao, she had Xiao Shi to be. Shi Song. First Miss Long. Princess. Gu Song, first Miss Xiao, Gu said. First, after, Gu, she said. Prince, Gu, Minister, A. After, Gu Ming Minister, she felt, Gu Shi Minister Shi Chi. She had. Come here. A man's voice came from the opposite side. Gu Shishu swallowed, and her legs were so weak that she could hardly stand. Why was it a man? How could it be a man? But if it was a woman, should she be more flustered and run away? Come here. The man's voice was majestic, and he didn't sound like a wretched servant. Gu Shishu gritted her teeth, lowered her head, and went over. When she got to the opposite side and saw Xiao Hua and standing opposite her, she breathed a sigh of relief. They knew each other. First young Master Xiao. She wiped the cold sweat on her forehead. Xiao Hua and glanced at her, turned around, and entered the room next door. Gu Shishu followed him. The servant girl was left at the door, and she walked in. Xiao Hua and sat down in the room. His legs were much better, but he couldn't stand for a long time, so he mainly sat to recuperate. First young Master Xiao. Why did you ask me to come here? Gu Shishu came in and said uneasily. There was no one else in the room. If the current situation between them was seen by others, it would be an affair between a man and a woman. At that time, she could only be Xiao Hua and's concubine. Of course, Gu Shishu was unwilling. She admired her third cousin, not the first young Master Xiao in front of her. Didn't you read the letter? Xiao Hua and glanced at Gu Shishu and said with a smile. If his sister hadn't mentioned it, he really wouldn't have known that the cousin of the Prime Minister in front of him was such a cruel and merciless person. She dared to harm her cousin at such a young age, just because this cousin was the Prime Minister's biological daughter and was more favored than him. Women, the more delicate they looked, the more vicious they were. What do you mean, first young master? Gu Shishu's face darkened. Miss Gu, don't you understand? Do you still want me to explain what happened in the past? Prime Minister Wen only had one daughter. If he knew that his youngest daughter had died in the hands of a cousin like you, not to mention marrying Prime Minister Wen's son, you wouldn't even be able to keep your life. You might even implicate your family. Xiao Hua said bluntly, knocking his fingers on the table with disdain in his eyes. He wouldn't come to see such a vicious woman unless he had no other choice. What do you want? Gu Shishu, who pretended to be calm, immediately trembled. She pulled her sleeves tightly and said in a panic. What do I want? Xiao Huan twitched the corner of his mouth and waved at her. Gu Shishu walked over with fear in her heart and stayed close to him. What if someone sees it? Xiao Huan reached out and made a gesture around. What? She could only be a concubine. If it was in the past, Xiao Huan might be the heir of Duke Xing's mansion, at least he had some capital. At this moment, how could Gu Shishu like him? Not to mention being a concubine, she was even unwilling to marry him. Tell me, what do you want? Gu Shishu gritted her teeth and asked. When you leave the mansion tomorrow, get along with this woman when you see her. Xiao Huan pointed at a small piece of paper on the table and said. Gu Shishu reached out to take it and saw a woman's name on the top, followed by some detailed information about her life. And Yang? Who is she? She asked subconsciously. You don't have to ask who she is. When you leave the mansion tomorrow, her carriage will accidentally bump into you, and then you can get along with her. She is the daughter of an imperial censor, but she can't find her relatives now. Xiao Huan ordered. What does she want? Gu Shishu felt uneasy. Such a woman bumped into her silently. Did she want to harm the Prime Minister's mansion? Don't worry. She is not going to your Prime Minister's mansion, but to our Lord Protector's mansion. You just need to get along with her. She is not young and can be your mother. She won't steal the man you like. Xiao Huan smiled disdainfully. It was no secret that Gu Shishu liked Wen Shiqi. He had known it since the beginning. Although Wen Shiqi was good to Gu Shishu, he just regarded her as a younger sister. His younger sister died early. Wen Shiqi also regarded his cousin as his biological younger sister. Xiao Huan didn't know it in the past. He only thought that Gu Shishu had a good life. Now it seemed that she was so vicious at such a young age, which was really disgusting. Wen Shiqi had always been intelligent, but he was blind under the light. He didn't expect that his younger sister would die in the hands of this vicious woman. However, now it was just the right time. He was worried that he couldn't find someone to show up with Anyang in front of others. Although Rui, Great Elder Princess, was kind to her, it was impossible for her to take her out. In front of Rui, Great Elder Princess, Great Elder Princess promoted her for the sake of the late Infanta Qinghua. Of course, she also wanted to use her to deal with his mother. As for Princess Chen, it was not easy to get close to her, let alone show up with Anyang in front of others to prove her previous reputation. At present, Gu Shishu was a suitable candidate. I heard that there will be a banquet in the Deputy Prime Minister's mansion in a few days. You can introduce Anyang to some people who are on good terms, Xiao Huan said. Wen Shiqi, the third young master of the Wen family, was not young, but he had not gotten married. Madam of the Deputy Prime Minister was very anxious, so the banquet was said to be a Lotus Appreciation Banquet, but it was actually a blind date in disguise. Madam of the Deputy Prime Minister wanted to find a lady from a noble family to be her son's wife. At the mention of this matter, Yu Shishu was so angry that she gnashed her teeth. She had expressed her love for third cousin openly and secretly, but her aunt, who had always loved her, pretended not to understand. Now she even wanted to make a blind date, which was obviously not considering her. How could she be reconciled? She wanted to marry third cousin, not second cousin. Okay, I promise you. Gu Shishu said with a trace of annoyance in her eyes. Since she couldn't make her aunt agree, she would ruin this Lotus Appreciation Banquet, in case her aunt liked someone. As for the woman sent by Marquis Xing's mansion, compared with this matter, it was not a big deal. She was just an old middle-aged woman, who was not a threat to her. If she could make use of her, she might have unexpected benefits. With that in mind, the expression on his face relaxed. Don't have any bad ideas about Yi Nyang. Yi Nyang will show up in public with you. If you ruin this banquet, you will have to bear the consequences of what you did before. You can't stay here. Xiao Huan saw her plan at a glance and warned her with a sneer. If something happens to her, will it be my fault? Gu Shishu retorted, unconvinced. Of course. Xiao Xiao Hua then said naturally. Gu Shishu gnashed her teeth angrily and couldn't help saying, even if you tell us what happened in the past, few people will believe it, because there is no evidence. Even if there is no evidence, will the people of the Deputy Prime Minister's mansion treat you like before? Seeing that she was still struggling, Xiao Hua reminded her in a cold voice, the third child of the Deputy Prime Minister's mansion has always been intelligent. If he has such a guess, even if it has been so long, he may find out the truth. At that time, it will not be enough for you to pay for it with your life. If you don't believe me, you can have a try. Gu Shishu didn't dare to try. She had to bear it even if she couldn't bear it. She lowered her head and admitted it. Seeing that she agreed, Xiao Hua waved his hand, indicating that she could leave. Gu Shishu felt as if she had been pardoned. She didn't dare to stay any longer for fear of being discovered, so she returned to the Deputy Prime Minister's mansion with her servant girl. Then the bricks were piled up one by one. At first glance, it looked the same as before. The night was so quiet that no one noticed that the lights on their side had already attracted people's attention. After the people of the two mansions left, a black shadow flashed over a tree and disappeared. End of this chapter. Chapter 1184. Prime Minister Wen's niece killed his biological daughter, and their family raised this cousin Miss carefully and treated her as their biological daughter. They found the shadow of their deceased daughter in her. The corners of Chu Liuchen's thin lips curled up slightly, with a bit of enchanting charm, and even a bit evil under the light. It's really interesting. Prime Minister Wen, who seems to be stable in the imperial court and is the Prime Minister, actually makes a mistake. The secret guard didn't dare to answer, and lowered his head, pretending to be a wooden man. The guard leader, Cheng, grew up with Chu Luchen, so he didn't have so many scruples, and said, if Prime Minister Wen knows that he raises such a poisonous snake in his family and this poisonous snake wants to marry into his family, will he faint with anger? After saying this, he laughed heartlessly. If his daughter knows it, she will definitely climb up from hell to find her old father. Your Highness, do you want to expose this matter? No, send the news to Xiao Xuanzi tomorrow and ask him to tell Princess. Princess wants to deal with the matter of Marquis Xing's mansion by herself. Chu Luchen said lazily, wearing a gorgeous purple brocade robe embroidered with gold patterns, which had a trace of enchanting charm different from plain clothes. Even though Chen grew up with Chu Luchen and was his personal guard since childhood, he was used to his handsome appearance. At this time, he couldn't help but be moved, and became more and more careful in his heart. In the future, when he met Princess, he had to respect her, but he was afraid that the respect was not enough. Xiao Xuanzi was right, and he knew it from this prince's smile that he was so amorous. Except for Princess, no one would have such a tenderness from the inside out. It was so simple that it was unbelievable. Prince Chen, who had always been cold to others and didn't care about himself, actually cared about a woman, and even tried his best to marry her. I will do it tomorrow. Ruiping Great Elder Princess seems to have found out the servant who drugged the dog. How should we deal with this servant? And Ching changed the topic and asked. He just came to ask about this matter, and happened to meet the secret guard who came to report what he had just found. The servant who drugged the dog was sold in a roundabout way. He was not one of their people. Although it was done very cleanly, and Chen was still worried that it would be discovered. Kill them. That line belongs to Chu Luiyue. Kill them all. Chu Luchen waved his hand carelessly, as if he was just saying the most common weather greeting. In this way, Ruiping Great Elder Princess wouldn't be able to find out, but Chu Luiyue might. It was the most appropriate to cut it off directly. Even if they wanted to find out, they would only find out about Chu Luiyue, and Chu Luiyue would find out about Ruiping Great Elder Princess. This was a dead end. Ruiping Great Elder Princess was backed by Prince Shou. Understood. And Qing smiled. He also guessed so. Then he cupped his hands to Chu Luchen and said with a serious face, Your Highness, I have found out what you asked me to find out. Xiao Baolin's body was sent out of the palace by Prince Yu's mansion, and Prince Zhou's mansion also intervened. The palace is so chaotic, so it didn't take much effort for the two princes to get the body out of the palace. Just the two of them? Chu Liuchen's smile was a little strange under the light. It should be the two of them. And Cheng thought for a while and said. Not only the two of them. Chu Liuchen shook his slender fingers in front of Cheng. His smile was dazzling under the light. I believe that Xiao Yanru is now with Prince Cheng. Your Highness, it can't be. Both Prince Yu and Prince Zhou intervened. And Cheng didn't believe it. Although he didn't find out where Xiao Yanru was, he didn't think that she was with Prince Cheng. He had sent someone to keep an eye on Prince Cheng, but he didn't see where Xiao Yanru went. Uncle Cheng is the last old fox. Chu Liuchen smiled softly, and his smile was like a cold blade. But it's not right, even if Prince Cheng intervened, Prince Cheng doesn't like women. And Cheng shook his head and said, it's impossible. Prince Cheng really likes men. Even if the first Miss Xiao is the most beautiful, he won't like her. How could he take such a big risk for her? Uncle Cheng has his eyes on that position. Chu Liuchen said slowly. It must be. And Cheng nodded. They had investigated this matter clearly. Prince Cheng was very ambitious. He was definitely not as calm and determined to become a monk as others saw. What he showed in front of others was a facade. He was behind many things, but he had been very careful. Those things seemed to be done by either Prince Yu or Prince Zhou. Since he wants to ascend the throne, he always wants to pass the throne down. In this case, how can he not have children? If he likes men, he won't have children. Chu Liuchen said in a light tone with a bit of evil, which was really not as elegant as he used to be. After being stunned for a moment, Cheng suddenly opened his eyes wide and understood. Prince Cheng is afraid of being investigated, so he pretends to like men. What is false is also true, and what is true is also false. It should be true that he likes men, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't want women to bear children for him. With Prince Cheng's temperament, he must be unwilling to let the country fall into someone else's hands after so many years of hard work. He has waited for so many years just to succeed once again. Chu Liuchen said with an evil smile with a bit of meaning. Compared with Chu Luyue and Chu Liuzhou, Prince Cheng was his real opponent. He raised his hand, picked up a file beside him, threw it to Cheng, and said lazily, have a look. You should know what to do next. Cheng took it nimbly. After flipping it open and reading it a few times, he was surprised and nodded repeatedly. Xiao Wanru's carriage stopped at the door of a pharmacy. She got out of the carriage with a curtain hat and entered the pharmacy. The shop assistant in the pharmacy saw two servant girls accompanying a master in. At first glance, he knew that she was the master of a rich family. He stepped forward attentively and asked, Miss, what medicinal materials do you need? Do you have 100-year-old ginseng? Xiao Wanru asked gently. 100-year-old ginseng was hard to come by. It was often the most precious treasure of many mansions and was priceless. Miss, I'm really sorry. I don't have such old ginseng, but I do have 50-year-old ginseng. The shop assistant said with a flattering smile. Let me have a look. Seeing Xiao Wanru nod, Yu Jie said. After answering, the shop assistant took out 3 ginseng. Yu Jie was experienced. She had dug ginseng in the mountains before. She picked up one and looked at it. Then she said to Xiao Wanru, Master, this ginseng is indeed about 50 years old, but several of its roots are damaged. It is not the best one. If the roots were damaged, the medicinal properties of the ginseng would be damaged. After saying that, Yu Jie looked at the other two and felt that they were not as good as the first one. She shook her head helplessly. Is there a better one? Xiao Wanru asked. No, these are the best ones, the shop assistant said helplessly. Didn't you send a 100-year-old ginseng before? Another shop assistant walked by and suddenly said. That one is not a 100-year-old one. It is 70 or 80 years old, and someone has already booked it. The shop assistant shook his head in a hurry. Can you show it to us? Xiao Wanru suddenly asked, Don't worry. Since you have booked it, we won't force you. Since she said so, the the shop assistant could not refuse to take it out. He could only turn around and go in. After a while, he took out a beautiful box. When the box was opened, there was a ginseng in it with its roots intact. "Master, this ginseng is good. Although it is not 100 years old, it is close to it." Yujie took it very carefully and gave the answer after looking at it. The shop assistant was originally unwilling to let Yujie pick it up and look at it, for fear that the roots would be damaged. However, seeing that Yujie was very experienced, he did not stop her. "May I ask which mansion booked it?" Xiao Wanru asked politely. "Well, it's not convenient for us to tell you the information of the customer," the shop assistant said in embarrassment. This was also a business secret, so how could he see it whenever he wanted? "Don't worry. We just want to ask and make a deal with that customer. If they are willing to give it to us, we are willing to pay twice the price," Yujie said cleverly. "Well." The shop assistant was a little hesitant. Yujie took out a pouch from her sleeve and handed it over quietly. The shop assistant's eyes lit up when he saw it. After looking around and making sure that no one saw what they did, he carefully took the pouch and stuffed it under the medicine box in front of him. After looking around again, he approached Yujie and said in a low voice, "It's the third young master of Prime Minister Wen's mansion." After saying that, he hurriedly moved his head away and then said seriously, "Miss, please go back. Our shop never reveals the information of the customer, and we can't do it now." "Okay." Xiao Wanru did not embarrass the shop assistant. She had already left after getting the news. If it was someone else's ginseng, she did want to buy it from that person. Ginseng of 70 or 80 years could also be bought in the market, but she wanted it now, but she didn't have it. "Thank you for being considerate, Mississippi." "Thank you, Mississippi," the shop assistant thanked her repeatedly. Xiao Wanru picked some other herbs, asked the shop assistant to weigh them, and paid for them. Then she turned around and wanted to leave with the herbs she bought. She had to go to other pharmacies to see if there was such ginseng. If there was number 100-year-old ginseng, it would be good if it was 70 or 80 years old. Not every pharmacy had such ginseng. She needed ginseng of this age. Mingxiu Nun specially ordered her to go out today mainly for this. The medicine for feigning death had something to do with these ginseng. "Princess Chen." An elegant voice suddenly came into her ears. Xiao Wanru looked up and was stunned to see Wen Shiqi standing in front of her. Seeing that he was looking at her in confusion, it seemed that he did not recognize her for a moment. But when he looked at Yujie and Qing standing beside her, a smile appeared on his face. "Greetings, Princess Chen." This time, it was not a question, but an affirmation. Chapter 1185. 1 second. Remember, love to read divided by 5200 will provide you with exciting novels to read. I will update the latest chapter of Crown Princess's medical skills as soon as possible. "You're welcome, Your Excellency," Xiao Wanru said gently. Sure enough, one couldn't speak ill of others behind their backs. "Greetings, Princess Chen." The sweet voice made her look at Gu Shishu, who was standing aside, and then turned her eyes from Gu Shishu to Anyang, who bowed sideways with Gu Shishu. What a coincidence! They all knew each other. "Does Princess Chen want the ginseng just now?" Wen Shiqi asked. "I happen to need a medicine and want to give it to my grandma," Xiao Wanru explained. "Then give it to Princess Chen. In fact, I don't need it for anything." Wen Shiqi looked at the shop assistant beside him calmly. Seeing that the person in question had arrived, the shop assistant immediately took out the ginseng. Gu Shishu's face darkened. She seemed to want to reach out to stop it, but she didn't dare to. When she had a dispute with Xiao Wanru in the past, Xiao Wanru was not Princess Chen yet. Now their identities were worlds apart. Gu Shishu didn't dare to contradict Xiao Wanru anymore and just glared at Xiao Wanru vaguely. Originally, she wanted to ask Wen Shiqi for the ginseng, so she found an excuse to come out with him. Unexpectedly, it was taken by Xiao Wanru. How could she not hate Xiao Wanru? Anyway, she just didn't like Xiao Wanru. Third cousin occasionally met other misses in the past, but none of them made third cousin feel different from Princess Chen in front of him. He couldn't tell what it was, but he had a feeling. She hated Xiao Wanru. How can I accept it? I can't take Grand Duke Wen's ginseng. Xiao Wanru shook her head and refused politely. Don't worry, Princess Chen. It's not an important thing. I just took it when I saw a suitable one. If you feel sorry, you can send me a message next time you see such a suitable ginseng, Wen Shiqi said indifferently. Since he said so, Xiao Wanru couldn't refuse anymore. After thanking him, she asked the shop assistant to wrap the ginseng and Yujie went to pay the bill. Greetings, Princess Chen. At this moment, Xiao Yanru's mother stepped forward with a smile and bowed to Xiao Wanru again, as if Xiao Wanru had not seen it just now. Xiao Wanru raised her eyes and looked at Xiao Yanru indifferently. Xiao Yanru was dressed like a different person from the one she had seen for the first time. In terms of temperament, Xiao Wanru looked calm, as if she had been educated by a good family. A hint of hidden coldness flashed across her eyes. Did Xiao Jing care so much about this girl? Wholeheartedly turning her into Marquis Xing's mansion? He glanced at her indifferently, as if he hadn't heard her words. He turned to the counter on the side, looked at some medicinal materials on the counter, and waited quietly for Yujie to come. Yi Nyang was stunned. Then, she felt wronged and her eyes turned red. However, she did not dare to say anything. She deliberately turned her head away, feeling embarrassed and ashamed. Gu Shishu moved closer to Wen Shiqi, curled her lips, and said softly, "You're rude." Wen Shiqi ignored her and looked at the medicine cabinet in front of him calmly. It seemed that he was also checking the medicinal materials in it, but he did not leave. Yujie came back very soon. After Yujie came back, Xiao Wanru nodded to Wen Shiqi and said goodbye. As for Gu Shishu and Yi Nyang, she ignored them and turned to leave with a group of people. Seeing Xiao Wanru leave, Gu Shishu stamped her feet angrily and said aggrievedly, "Third cousin, look at Princess Chen. How could she treat others like this? We bowed to her politely, but she treated others like this. It's really. Cousin, please be careful with your words." Wen Shiqi said coldly and stepped back a little to stay away from Gu Shishu. Princess Chen has a noble status and no one can talk about her. Of course, the so-called others referred to Gu Shishu. Gu Shishu did not expect that Wen Shiqi would embarrass her like this outside. For a moment, she was ashamed and angry. Her pink face flushed and she looked at Wen Shiqi with tears in her eyes, as if her tears would fall in the next moment. She looked extremely delicate and pitiful. As if he did not see it, Wen Shiqi turned around and changed his direction. After taking a few steps, he pointed at a kind of medicinal material on the counter and asked the shop assistant to take it out to have a look, leaving Gu Shishu there. Gu Shishu was indeed pretending. In the past, when second cousin was not discovered, as long as she pretended to be like this, third cousin would definitely be soft-hearted. He would give her whatever she wanted and even coax her. After that, because second cousin and she were discovered, she no longer dared to show her temper to third cousin in the mansion. But now it had been a long time, and they were outside the mansion. Gu Shishu thought that she could still act like before, but she did not expect that Wen Shiqi would embarrass her like this. Looking around and finding that there were still people looking at her, she wiped her face with a handkerchief and ran out crying. Yi Nyang looked at Wen Shiqi, who seemed to know nothing with his hands clasped behind his back, and could only chase after him with Gu Shishu's maid. In the corner by the door of the medicine shop, Gu Shishu tilted her head and wiped her tears, feeling aggrieved. Yi Nyang took a few steps forward and sighed softly. She reached out to hold her in her arms and comforted her softly, "Shishu, don't be angry. Your third cousin doesn't seem to understand these things." Aunt Lu, how could he not understand? Third cousin is so smart. How could he not understand? He just doesn't want to talk to me, but why? I treat him wholeheartedly and only have him in my heart. How could he do this? Gu Shishu cried in Yi Nyang's arms. She blurted out the words. It could be said that Gu Shishu and Lu Yinyang were predestined. Although they met each other and became friends because of scheming, after they got together, Gu Shishu found that Lu Yinyang was very agreeable to her and was gentler than her aunt. She had been raised in the Deputy Prime Minister's mansion since she was a child. Now even if her parents came back, she felt that they were not close. The older women around her were either servants or servants. Although her only aunt was close to her, she was of noble status. Sometimes she had to suffer for the sake of others in the mansion. In contrast, Lu Yinyang was agreeable and was like an elder who wholeheartedly protected her. Men are like this. Even if he approves of you in his heart, he has to show that he disapproves of you in front of others. Moreover, your affairs in the mansion have not been solved. He is his second brother, and your current identity is also very embarrassing. Yinyang softly persuaded her. The two of them hit it off. Yinyang was also a good person. She knew Gu Shishu's environment and knew that she lacked a confidant to confide in at first glance. Thus, she got some things out of her in a few words. Gu Shishu also knew that Yinyang was going to enter Marquis Xing's mansion, so her affairs were not a problem for her. Besides, she felt that Yinyang seemed to be able to help her, so she didn't hide it. The one who could give her ideas was a servant woman, who was a little less knowledgeable. Lu Yinyang in front of her was just right. Yinyang could make up for the lack of female elders around her and could also help her come up with some reliable ideas. Second cousin likes me. It's none of my business. I don't want to marry second cousin. I want to marry third cousin. Gu Shishu said willfully. It had been a long time since what had happened before, and her father was going to be promoted again. Even her uncle couldn't let her be second cousin's concubine. Naturally, she would be the legal wife. With her father's promotion, Gu Shishu also became more confident. Since she wanted to be the legal wife, why couldn't she be the legal wife of third cousin? But your second cousin has made it clear in front of Madam of the Prime Minister that he wants to marry you, Yinyang said. This was also what Gu Shishu said. Of course, she concealed the things between her and Wen Xian when she talked about it. This kind of thing naturally made people think that the girl was cheap and shameless. So what? Anyway, I won't marry second cousin. I want to marry third cousin. Gu Shishu cried. The more she thought about it, the more wronged she felt. She felt that for so many years, she had been carefully pleasing her uncle's family because she wanted to marry third cousin. Her aunt had been very good to her in the past. Why couldn't she see through her mind? She wholeheartedly felt that the Prime Minister's wife had mistreated her, but she didn't think that she and Wen Xian were already in an ambiguous relationship and had even been caught. How could the Prime Minister's wife allow her to marry her favorite third son, even if she was her own niece? In fact, there is a way. Yinyang thought about it and lowered her voice. As long as your second cousin marries another woman, won't this matter be solved? Marry another woman? Gu Shishu's eyes lit up. She wiped her tears and stopped crying. But second cousin is very stubborn. He won't like other women. Speaking of this, Gu Shishu was a little complacent and her face turned red. In a few days, Madam of the Prime Minister will choose a wife for third young master, right? At that time, there will be a lot of misses coming. Find one and send them together. Your second cousin has to marry her whether he wants to or not. None of the misses with such status can be offended. Yinyang suggested for her. In fact, someone had suggested this for Gu Shishu before, but she didn't like it because it was the maid beside her who suggested it. When the same idea came out of Yinyang's mouth, Gu Shishu felt it was very reasonable. The former imperial princess was really knowledgeable, but the specific operation still needed to be discussed. Aunt Lu, help me. Gu Shishu said. She took Yinyang's hand and felt that she had found a knowledgeable person who could help her. However, she didn't expect that Yinyang was just a maid. She had been with Infanta Qinghua for a few years and gained some knowledge. For the rest of the time, she was still an ignorant maid who didn't know some of the rules of aristocratic families. At present, she could be so decent because Xiao Jing had hired someone. The result of these days cramming was that Yi Inyang was still a maid. Miss Gu, don't worry. I will help you. Yi Inyang smiled brightly. Seeing Gu Shishu's trusting eyes, she felt her heart fluttering. She didn't expect that someone trusted her so much. As expected, identity was the most important. When she became Madam of Marquis Xing in the future, there would be more people who would believe in her. Since this matter had been settled, Gu Shishu wiped her tears, returned to the shop, and stood beside Wen Shiqi. She was as gentle as a little bird and didn't lose her temper anymore. However, she was carefully considering getting rid of Wen Xian. She had to get rid of Wen Xian, who stuck to her, so that she could marry third cousin. End of this chapter. Chapter 1186. Love to Read divided by 5200 will provide you with wonderful novels to read. Update the latest chapter of the Crown Princess's medical skills as soon as possible. Xiao Wanru went to a few more pharmacies and bought almost all the ginsengs over 70 or 80 years old. After that, she took them to Butterfly Clothing Shop. Butterfly Clothing Shop had changed the name of the shop owner, but in the eyes of outsiders, nothing had changed. The shopkeeper was still the same shopkeeper, and the goods in the shop were still excellent. However, the shop assistants knew that their current shop owner was Princess Chen, so they were more confident to entertain guests. They were not as polite as they used to be when they met someone with a bad temper who didn't even dare to speak. When Xiao Wanru came in, Madame Dong had already received the message. She came out to greet her and then led Xiao Wanru to the accounting room. Sitting behind the wide desk, Xiao Wanru looked at the account book on the table and asked with a smile, "How's the business recently?" "Don't worry, Your Highness. The business is very good, and the profit is a little more than last month." Madame Dong seemed to be in good spirits. She reported with a smile, walked to the desk, found the places she had flipped through just now, and pointed them out to Xiao Wanru one by one. These were the places that had made more money recently. "Didn't Wei Dehai come to pester you?" Xiao Wanru flipped through the account book and asked. "No, how could he have the money to come here? His wife once sent me a gift and said that she wanted to reconcile with him. I asked someone to return the gift." Madame Dong said disdainfully. "She even sent a gift? What does she want?" Xiao Wanru stopped, raised her watery eyes slightly, and was a little surprised. "She just said that what happened that year was a freak accident. She said that this marriage was arranged by her father, so she had no choice. In this case, we'd better go our separate ways. But if there is anything I want to help, I will send someone to find her. This is what she owed me in those years, and she will try her best to compensate me." Madame Dong didn't take it seriously and raised the corner of her mouth with a sarcastic smile. She was no longer the naive Madame Dong who was full of ideas. She would no longer be deceived by Madame Wei's words. Madame Wei spoke as if she was a kind-hearted madam and thought that she would forget everything she had done to her in the past 10 years. "Princess, this woman is not simple." Madame Dong was also a person who had experienced many things. If it were not for Princess Chen, she and Dong Xiu'er might have died in some corner. They were both people who had died once, so their thoughts were much sharper. She had seen many things and would not be confused by false appearances. "I always feel that Wei Dehai listens to her. Wei Dehai's wife is his father-in-law's only daughter. Although his father-in-law doesn't have the highest official position, he has some real power. Back then, his character in the imperial court was not bad, and it was very easy for him to find a young master of an aristocratic family for his daughter. However, he chose Wei Dehai. After marrying his daughter, she moved into his mansion. Although it's not a selection of a son-in-law, this situation is no different from a selection of a son-in-law." Xiao Wanru nodded. She also got the news about the old affair between Wei Dehai and Madame Wei from Chu Luchen. Instead of marrying an aristocratic family, Madame Wei married a poor boy with no family background. Moreover, this poor boy had a wife who was going to get married and was even pregnant with a child. It was not suitable in any way. Wei Dahai was not good-looking, and there were some examinees in the same batch who were more good-looking. His family background was poor, his character was average, and his ranking in the exam was neither high nor low. He was the most inconspicuous one. However, Wei Dahai's father-in-law took a fancy to him, which really made people feel that there was some other meaning in it. The meaning was not simple. Could it be that at that time, she had already known that Wei Dahai was Nanny Wei's nephew? Did she deliberately marry Wei Dahai in order to get close to Nanny Wei? If she thought about it in this way, it was really possible. The trusted nanny of the Empress Dowager was not comparable to a foreign official. You don't have to pay attention to her. No matter it's about Wei Dahai or her, you don't have to pay attention to it. If she has any trouble, just push it to me. Xiao Wanru ordered in a deep voice. Since the hard method failed, she used the soft method. Did she still not give up on Butterfly Clothing Shop? Was Wei Dahai so short of money? Or where did he spend all his money? Why did he want money so much? Don't worry, Your Highness. I know. No matter what they do, I will treat them as strangers. If they come to the shop, they will just be ordinary customers. Madame Dong's thoughts were very upright. She had long given up on Wei Dahai, so it was impossible for her to have other thoughts. She only treated him as an ordinary person with bad intentions. Xiao Wanru smiled slightly and was very satisfied with Madame Dong's idea. As the shopkeeper of a shop, compared with people like Wei Dahai, she was naturally much smaller. Even though she was the boss behind the shop, sometimes there were things that she could not take care of. Madame Dong's idea was the safest way. Madame Dong was not strong enough to deal with Wei Dahai, so she had to do it herself. Madame Dong had better keep a low profile and endure it. She was afraid that Madame Dong could not help but cause some trouble and give Wei Dahai something to use against her. She looked down and suddenly saw a part of the account book. She looked at it a few more times in confusion and asked, "Why is this batch of goods selling so well?" This subordinate doesn't know the reason either. In the past, at this time, this kind of cloth would be piled up. Although there are some, there aren't many. This year, a big customer came, and the shop made a lot of money. Madame Dong glanced at it and immediately explained with a smile. This batch of cloth was actually very ordinary, which was very common. Compared with the other materials of Butterfly Clothing Shop, it was not at the same level at all. Originally, Butterfly Clothing Shop did not sell this kind of cloth. Later, Xiao Wanru felt that they should take the route of some common people. Even if the quantity of these materials was not enough, they should be prepared, so she asked Madame Dong to buy a batch of goods. The first sale was not bad, and it was neither a loss nor a profit. In the past, Butterfly Clothing Shop sold the same style as the fashion in the capital. It was good that someone came in to sell this kind of plain cloth. At least in the end, there was an extra warehouse of materials, which made the account even. These extra materials could be regarded as profits. No one wanted them for a while, but when they were all sold out, they would also make a big profit. However, they had not been able to sell them. Unexpectedly, all the materials in this warehouse were sold out, and the large profit was immediately realized. They were all sold to one merchant. Xiao Wanru looked at the records below in surprise and was very surprised to find that they were all sold to one merchant. Yes, they were all sold to one merchant. They said that they were going to be shipped out, and the merchant also opened a shop. Madame Dong explained with a smile. Xiao Wanru nodded indifferently. It would be best if they could be sold. She had thought that if she really couldn't sell them, she would reduce the price vigorously and find a festival to sell these goods at a discount. It was better than piling them up in the warehouse. She didn't expect that they had been sold before she could think of a good idea. After searching other places and asking a few questions, she got into the carriage with a group of servant girls, and Madame Dong walked them to the door. She came here this time to support Madame Dong and let others understand this. The real owner of the shop had been changed, so that some ignorant people could not bully Butterfly Clothing Shop again. In the past, when she hid behind the scenes, she had also encountered such things. Many tyrants thought that Butterfly Clothing Shop had no foundation, so they wanted to take advantage of it. Fortunately, Chu Luchan secretly helped them every time, so that Butterfly Clothing Shop could get better and better in the past 3 years. Xiao Wanru didn't expect that she gained the most from her trip to Butterfly Clothing Shop this time instead of supporting Butterfly Clothing Shop, but the batch of goods. She still had something to do now, so she had to go and have a look. Of course, it was also necessary to show her weakness appropriately and confuse others. Grandma, why should I apologize to that bitch Yuyan? It has nothing to do with me. Infanta Yuanthan, who was still wearing a scarf on her head, sat on the bed with a livid face. Ruiping Great Elder Princess also looked pale. Sitting in front of Infanta Yuan An's bed, she had aged a lot in just a few days. She used to look like a beauty in her 40s, but now she looked very old and weak. After entering the imperial palace, she was reprimanded by the Empress Dowager and the Emperor, so for a while, Ruiping Great Elder Princess was left in the cold. Prince Shou was given so many noble ladies as his concubines, and they married together, which was a slap in her face. Moreover, it was useless for her to plead in the imperial palace. When she asked to see the Empress, she didn't even see her. At this time, she felt even more depressed, with a burst of anger in her chest that she couldn't vent or swallow. Yuanthan, do you still want to be Princess Shou? Ruiping Great Elder Princess calmed herself down and pointed up. Do you want that position? Why not? It's mine. That bitch Yuyan made me like this. It's good enough that I didn't deal with her myself. How dare she come to me? Thinking of what had happened to Prince Shou, Infanta Yuan cried aggrievedly. Until now, she still hadn't figured out why things had changed like this. Why didn't Xiao Wanru and Zhang Qilan get into trouble? How did it become her and Princess Yuyan? Yuyan must have done something in private, so that it was ruined. At first glance, she could tell that this bitch was selfish. She helped her so much, but not only was she not grateful, but she also pushed her out. If she hadn't made a prompt decision to take the opportunity of her pushing to hit the pillar heavily, she might have been blamed now. Since you want to, you have to bear it. Ruiping Great Elder Princess said gloomily, you and Princess Yuyan mainly schemed against Zhang Qilan and Xiao Wanru. Nothing happened to them, but something happened to you too. Don't you understand that you have been schemed by them? Not only you, but also Princess Yuyan. But it's Princess Yuyan's place. How could Zhang Qilan and Xiao Wanru know? They can't do anything. It must be Princess Yuyan who ruined things. How dare she push the blame to me? It's better for her to fall and be bitten to death by dogs. Infanta Yuan then said angrily. She wished that Princess Yuyan would be bitten to death by dogs. So, are you going to take the blame and admit the crime of harming Princess Yuyan? Ruiping Great Elder Princess said coldly and stared at Infanta Yuan with cold eyes. Being stared at, Infanta Yuan shivered and suddenly realized that she was an experienced person. She reached out to hold Ruiping Great Elder Princess's hand and said anxiously, Grandma, it has nothing to do with me. Although I want to do it, I haven't done it yet. What should I do now? As the future Princess Shou, should I also? Thinking of her grandma's gloomy face when she came back from the palace, Infanta Yuan panicked and grabbed Ruiping Great Elder Princess so hard that she felt pain. End of this chapter. Chapter 1187. Love to Read divided by 5200 will provide you with wonderful novels to read. Update the latest chapter of the Crown Princess's medical skills as soon as possible. You have to be on good terms with Princess Yuyan. Tell her that you didn't hurt her and that you don't hate her. You are on the same side. If you two fight each other, Zhang Qilan and Xiao Wanru will benefit from it. This is a great harm to both of you. I'm sure that this matter has something to do with Xiao Wanru and Zhang Qilan. They must have noticed something. Ruiping Great Elder Princess said with a gloomy face. She had thought about it carefully and found it suspicious no matter how she looked at it. The one who should have been in trouble didn't have an accident, but the two who shouldn't have had an accident had an accident. There was something wrong with it. Grandmother, what should I say? This dog belongs to our mansion. Now, the dog is dead, and the dog owner is dead. Whoever grandmother investigates will be in trouble. It seems that we have a guilty conscience, said Qin Wanru. Infanta Yuan was not stupid. On the contrary, she was very smart. She had just been angry for a while. Now, after being reminded by Ruiping Great Elder Princess, she gradually became sober. You just need to say that someone did it. You need to say that someone deliberately set the two of you against each other to take revenge for the two of you who schemed against Zhang Qilan and Xiao Wanru. Ruiping Great Elder Princess took a breath and said. Even if I say so, she won't believe it. Yu Yan, that bitch, is not a good person. She thinks about what is in the pot while eating from the bowl. She doesn't know who she is. She even wants to enter Prince Yu's mansion and compare herself with Zhang Qilan. Infanta Yuan said disdainfully. She really looked down on Princess Yuyan's love-struck look. It seemed that anyone who saw her would be attracted to her and would do this and that for her. This reminded her of Xiao Yanru in the past. Compared with Xiao Yanru, Princess Yuyan was a little worse. At least, she really made Prince Yu and Prince Zhou fall in love with her at that time. Ruiping Great Elder Princess frowned. She had previously asked about the course of events. Back then, Princess Yuan had also briefly mentioned this matter, but she did not take it to heart. Now, however, her heart was moved. Princess Yu Yan wants the position of Princess Yu. She didn't say that she must be the princess consort. She can only be the consort, but I think she will definitely go against Zhang Qilan. This time, she also wants to destroy Zhang Qilan. Since Princess Chen was harmed, Prince Chen will definitely not let it go. He will definitely investigate Zhang Qilan. With Prince Chen's temper, if it was really Zhang Qilan who did it, so what if it was Prime Minister Zhang? Princess Yuan could not help but feel a chill run down her spine when she recalled what had happened to her second brother. Prince Chen, Chu Luchen was not a reasonable person. With Prince Chen's heart, if something happens to Princess Chen, he may bring this matter to the Empress Dowager and the Emperor. These two have always protected him. Zhang Qilan may not be able to keep her position as princess consort. Even if she can keep it, she will definitely have problems. Ruiping Great Elder Princess had watched Chu Luchen grow up. She still knew a little about this cold-blooded and overbearing person. This person only looked kind on the surface, but he could not be taken seriously. Yuan, do you think it was Prime Minister Zhang's idea? Ruiping Great Elder Princess suddenly asked. Grandmother, are you saying that Zhang Qilan deliberately beat her at her own game? Princess Yuan reached out to touch her head and asked with a pale face. Don't you think that someone is playing tricks in this matter? Ruiping Great Elder Princess looked at the injury on her granddaughter's head and frowned fiercely. Someone must be playing tricks in the dark. Princess Yuan nodded. Whoever benefits the most from this matter will be the one. Ruiping Great Elder Princess said in a deep voice, but we also have to consider other possible factors. Whether we have the ability to help or not is also a very important thing. Do you think that Prince Yu has been bewitched by Princess Yu Yan and wants Princess Yu Yan to marry into his Prince Yu's mansion as his concubine? She still had to ask Chu Luiyue about his attitude. Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion inexplicably became the center of the matter. In the past 2 days, Ruiping Great Elder Princess had been in a mess, and Chu Liuzhou, who was supposed to visit her, had also disappeared. Ruiping Great Elder Princess seemed to be out of favor before she married him. Just for this point, Ruiping Great Elder Princess was a little flustered. It is said that Prince Yu's attitude is very good. Princess Yuyan said that when she went there, she and Prince Yu had a tacit understanding. As long as Prime Minister Zhang's mansion did not say anything, Prince Yu would be fine. Infanta Yuan thought for a moment and said. That day, Princess Yuyan looked very happy, and she should have a tacit understanding with Chu Luiyue. Prince Yu is willing, but Prime Minister Zhang's mansion is certainly not. In the end, Zhang Qilan is fine, and Princess Yuyan can only marry into Commandery Prince Qing's mansion. It is impossible for her to have anything to do with Prince Yu anymore. Prime Minister Zhang's mansion can sit back and relax, and Prince Yu's mansion is also peaceful. It is Prince Shou's mansion and you who are in trouble. In this matter, Prince Yu also benefits. I heard that in the past 2 days, Prince Yu went to Prime Minister Zhang's mansion from time to time. Rui Ping Great Elder Princess slowly analyzed. Grandma, in this case, Zhang Qilan benefits the most. She is the one behind the scenes. Infanta Yuan was full of hatred. She gritted her teeth and said with hatred. This matter must have something to do with her. Prime Minister Zhang is behind her. Before the 2 princesses of the Su kingdom came to the capital, this mansion was arranged by Prime Minister Zhang's people. It is very likely that some people have been arranged in it. Rui Ping Great Elder Princess said slowly, but it can't be said that Xiao Wanru is completely innocent. What's wrong with her? She just married a good husband. Without Prince Chen, Xiao Wanru is nothing. You are also a great elder princess. Grandma, you are much better than Rui and Great Elder Princess. Infanta Yuan said indifferently. She looked down on Xiao Wanru and felt that Xiao Wanru's current status was given by Chu Luchen. Because she did not dare to offend Chu Luchen, she did not dare to offend Xiao Wanru. Infanta Yuan really looked down on a woman who was completely dependent on a man. Don't underestimate her. She is very powerful. She can compare with her big sister, who is famous in the capital city. She even suppressed the second branch of Marquis Xing and pushed her brother to the position of heir of Duke. This Princess Chen is not simple. Compared with Infanta Yuan's disapproval, Rui and Great Elder Princess looked much more serious. She shook her head and denied Infanta Yuan's statement. That's also because she married Prince Chen. Before she married Prince Chen, she was forced to go to the Yuhui nunnery. Everyone in Marquis Xing's mansion didn't take her seriously. Infanta Yuan didn't like Rui and Great Elder Princess's praise of Xiao Wanru. Thinking of what had happened between her and Xiao Wanru, she felt aggrieved. She didn't like Xiao Wanru very much. Grandma, who do you think is the one who backstabbed me? Her mind was in a mess, and her forehead hurt faintly. Although she had taken Dr. Chiu's medicine, it still hurt a lot. She was also inexplicably upset. There were so many cheap women in Prince Shou's mansion. How could she, the future Princess Shou, bear it? In the future, she would be too ashamed to go out. She wanted to kill them one by one, but she had a noble status. It was not convenient for all of them to get into trouble at once. After finding out who it was, she would not let that person go. There are 2 possibilities. At present, it seems that Zhang Qilan is more likely. Let's take a closer look. In a while, go and see Princess Yu Yan and explain this matter. With the 2 of you working together, it will be much more convenient. Don't worry, Princess Yu Yan won't really do anything to you. She is also a street rat now. Without help, she can't gain a foothold in the capital city. Rui Ping Great Elder Princess sneered. In her eyes, the princess of a small barbaric country couldn't compare with her granddaughter. She despised the princess of a small country the most. She thought that she was so great and wanted to plot against the princesses of several princes. She didn't know whether she had this identity or not. Now she had become the princess of Commandery Prince Qing with an unknown identity. She didn't know whether she would be the princess, co-wife, concubine or something else. Rui Ping Great Elder Princess actually wanted to please the most despised Commandery Prince Qing. For this reason, Rui Ping Great Elder Princess felt very relieved. Compared with her granddaughter, Princess Yuyan's fate was even more miserable. In this case, what right did Princess Yuyan have to despise her granddaughter? Even if she didn't believe it, so what? Grandma, I understand. Don't worry. I will go to the princess's mansion to apologize to Princess Yuyan later and tell her about it by the way. We can't be schemed against in vain. We have to get our face back. Infanta Yuan gritted her teeth and said. The more she thought about it, the more hatred she felt. How did she get involved in this matter and even caused her to become like this? After her grandmother's analysis, she also felt that Zhang Qilan was most likely to be the culprit. Compared with Zhang Qilan, Xiao Wanru was a little worse. On the one hand, it was because she felt that she relied on men. At that time, Prince Chen hadn't come yet, so Xiao Wanru couldn't rely on her even if she wanted to. On the other hand, she felt that only Zhang Xiang could completely turn the situation around. In this situation, Zhang Qilan was fine and was the biggest winner. If Xiao Wanru had taken action, Zhang Qilan wouldn't have won so much. At that time, Infanta Yuan would not have been rash. Her grandmother was right. She should first check carefully and then deal with the person who wanted to harm them. In fact, Infanta Yuan's injury was not as serious as it seemed. She just deliberately said that it was serious at that time in order to avoid punishment. After Ruiping Great Elder Princess asked someone to help her clean up, she asked a few servant girls and old maids to escort her to the princess's mansion. The carriage of Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion slowly left the mansion without disturbing anyone. In the past few days, Ruiping Great Elder Princess had been in and out of the palace from time to time. Other relatives were not surprised. The carriage moved forward in a low-key manner and happened to pass by a tea house. Xiao Wanru was sitting in the tea house drinking tea. Looking at the carriage passing by below, she rolled her eyes and showed a smile on her cherry lips. This was a key intersection between Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion and the princess's mansion. If they were going to the imperial palace, they would not come here. Chu Luchen said that Ruiping Great Elder Princess couldn't sit still anymore. It seemed that it was true. Needless to say, it must be Infanta Yuan who was going to the princess's mansion. Of course, it didn't matter if it was not Infanta Yuan. She just needed to sit and watch them do what they wanted. She waved her hand gently, and Yujie, who was at the intersection of the street below, understood. At this time, she also saw the carriage. As she had prepared in advance, she forcefully pulled down the lantern hanging at the door of the shop and said angrily, "You are bullying the owner. It is obvious that my master took a fancy to the lantern first. Why do you want to give it to this miss?" It was easy to meet self-righteous and unruly misses from aristocratic families on this street. There was no need to look for them deliberately. There was such a miss in front of them. Just now, she really wanted to grab the lantern that Yujie took a fancy to. End of this chapter. Chapter 1188. Love to read. 5200 will provide you with wonderful novels to read. Update the latest chapter of The Crown Princess as soon as possible. Catch her. A young lady at the door of the shop glared at Yujie and said angrily. The two old maids beside her took 2 steps forward and held her hands, trying to hold her down. Yujie struggled desperately. "I liked this lantern first. Not only did you meddle in it, but you also want to rob it. This lantern belongs to our master. How dare you rob it?" Yujie was so strong that she dragged the 2 old maids to take a step forward. One of them was still unsteady, so she took a few more steps forward and bumped into the young lady of her family. The young lady was almost hit and fell down. She was so angry that her face turned blue. Beat her. Beat her hard. She had never been so aggrieved. She was so embarrassed by a servant girl. "Miss. This is the capital." The wet nurse who followed her saw that the situation was not good and hurried to persuade her. This was the capital, where all the people living were high-ranking officials and dignitaries. No one knew who the master behind this humble servant girl was. It was better not to offend her since she had just come to the capital. "What are you afraid of? My cousin will help me. I really don't believe that anyone can go against my will," the young lady said loudly. She had someone to back her up, and it was a powerful one. Even if she had just come to the capital, so what? She couldn't be afraid of others. The passers-by saw this and secretly shook their heads. This young lady was raised to be a little too arrogant. "Our master is beside us. How dare you?" Yujie said loudly while pulling another old maid forward. She had always been strong. 2 old maids couldn't hold her back, let alone one old maid. The young lady was so angry that her finger pointing at Yujie trembled with anger. Beat her. Beat her hard for me. If she dies, I will bear the responsibility. She had just come to the capital and encountered such a thing. She couldn't bear it anymore. She had listened to the wet nurse's words before, but now she couldn't bear it anymore. She had always been spoiled and had never suffered such anger. Hearing her words, 4 more servant girls came forward and held Yujie's hands and arms. They restrained Yujie tightly. When the people around saw that there was a commotion here, and it was such a situation, many people stopped to watch the show. For a time, even the road was blocked. Princess Yuan An's carriage was stuck there, unable to move forward or retreat. Princess Yuan An, who was in the carriage, couldn't see what was going on outside, so she sent a maid to check on the situation. If it was in the past, Princess Yuan An would have already sent someone to drive away the passers-by. But now, she knew that she had to keep a low profile. At this time, Ruiping Great Elder Duke's mansion was in the eye of the storm, so she had to be more careful. The maid got off the carriage, squeezed into the crowd, and saw the scene in front of her. She knew the personal principal maid of Princess Chen. It turned out to be the maid named Yujie of Princess Chen. She simply stopped and deliberately asked the person next to her politely, "What happened?" It seems that the maid's master took a fancy to the lantern. Later, the young lady also took a fancy to the lantern and wanted to snatch it. The maid tore the lantern down and broke it. That's why they quarreled. A middle-aged woman next to him pointed at the lantern that had fallen to the ground. During the pushing and shoving, the lantern had been stepped on a few times, and it had long been broken. The originally carefully picked eaves were also broken, and the exquisite embroidery was stepped on a few times. The whole shape was about to be flattened, and it looked like a piece of junk. Beside Princess Chen, Princess Yuan An's maid actually quarreled with someone for a piece of junk, and it seemed that she was at a disadvantage. The maid next to Princess Yuan An curled her lips disapprovingly. Princess Chen was really useless. Not only was she useless, but also the maid next to her was useless. Unexpectedly, the lantern was snatched, and the maid was in such a mess. If her princess liked the lantern, whoever dared to snatch it from her would be slapped in the face. Let's see who dared to fight with her. Among the womenfolk in the capital, there was no one who was more powerful than a princess. Yujie was still struggling desperately. Although there were many people holding her, no one could do anything to her. Instead, she was dragged here and there. "Miss, please stop." In the midst of the commotion, a servant girl squeezed through the crowd. It was Qing Er. She took a few steps forward and forcefully pushed away several servant girls who were holding Yujie. She pulled Yujie to the side and said to the arrogant lady in the middle, "This is the capital. Miss, please look after your servants." So many people around her went up, but even a maid could not do anything. The miss in the middle was very angry. When she went back, she would slap a few maids to death, as if they had not eaten. So what? Is there someone in the capital who becomes arrogant and dares to throw away the lantern that I like? The miss said angrily. She was really angry. It was really her first time in the capital. Hearing Qing Er's words and deeds seemed to look down on her, she was even more angry. The lantern was seen by our master, and it was also our master who asked Yujie to come to get it. "Miss, you took a fancy to this lantern and wanted to snatch it. What's the reason?" Qing Er explained in a methodical manner. She pointed to the shopkeeper who shrank aside and said, "Ask him to say that it's not like this." Since there was a fight here, the shopkeeper had already been scared to hide aside for fear of getting involved. At this time, when he was pointed out by Qing Er, he had to smile and bow to the miss in the middle. "Miss, I've just said that this lantern was taken by someone else. Miss, you came a little late. If you really like it, please allow us to make another pair and send it to your mansion as an apology." No matter how he looked at it, this miss was not someone he could offend, so the shopkeeper intended to make peace. Then he bowed to Yujie and Qing Er and said, "You too, also leave your address. When the time comes, we will send a pair of lanterns to your master as an apology. Although Yu Jie and Qing were maids, their clothes were more gorgeous than those of ordinary misses. At first glance, it was obvious that they were not from ordinary mansions. The shopkeeper had been in the capital for so many years, and he had a sharp eye. Naturally, he did not dare to offend the masters behind these two. Harmony brings wealth, harmony brings wealth. Miss, you've just arrived in the capital. If you make trouble, you will definitely make Madam angry. This time you came to the capital. The wet nurse whispered in her miss's ear and reminded her. In the current situation, it seemed that her miss was in the wrong. There was a lot of discussion in the crowd. They were all talking about this matter, and the wet nurse heard it clearly. Wet nurse, these two cheap girls dare to bully me like this. I can't bear it. I want to. Miss still did not dare to stop, gritting her teeth and saying. The wet nurse immediately interrupted her, pulled her sleeves, and whispered in her ear, Miss, if you really want to enter the prince's mansion, you can't make trouble anymore. This is the capital. Who knows who is behind them? If you offend someone, maybe madam and your plan will be in vain. These words were very low, and only the miss heard it clearly. She also knew that it was true. At this time, she could not make trouble. After everything was settled, there would be opportunities in the future. Ask someone to keep an eye on them and see which mansion they are from. In the future, I will definitely slap their master's face. The miss said angrily. She could not bear it, but it was not a good time. After everything was settled in the future, she would definitely take revenge for what happened today. Bitch, I will be magnanimous today and let you live. Get out of here. The miss said loudly. Yu Jie was extremely angry. It seemed that she wanted to go forward to argue, but she was stopped by Qing. They looked at the miss angrily and turned to leave. Where did this miss come from? She is too arrogant and rude. I don't believe that she really dares to do anything to us. Yu Jie said angrily as she walked. Master is in a bad mood. She has just been schemed against. How can she be in the mood to argue with such a person? We have to find out what happened before. This kind of thing is just a trifle. Qing lowered her voice and persuaded. Her words made Yu Jie calm down. She seemed to think of something. Although her face was still gloomy, she said calmly, I said that I would help you find out what happened and tell you not to be sad. I especially asked you to go out on the street to relax, but you caused such a thing again. Master will definitely be unhappy later. If you keep being sad, it will hurt your health. Let's coax Master. We can't make Master unhappy anymore. That thing has nothing to do with our master. It can't be helped by those three. Just let me investigate them. The voices were getting farther and farther away. Infanta Yuan and servant girl looked at their backs with a complicated look and frowned. The master should be Prince Chen, and the so-called master was naturally Princess Chen. After watching the show, the onlookers left, and the servant girl also left with them. She climbed into Infanta Yuan's carriage and reported the cause and effect of the matter in detail. After hearing it, Infanta Yuan asked the servant girl to tell it again. After that, she said with a sneer, Xiao Wanru is really useless. She asks Prince Chen to investigate everything. Even if Prince Chen is in good health now, how many people can he use? Although the emperor said that Prince Chen could inherit the throne and become the crown prince of the Eastern Palace, how many people could he use when he had been ill for so many years? Why did he want to investigate her? Of course, Princess Chen can't be compared with you. She just relies on Prince Chen. She said that Prince Chen wanted to investigate you, Princess Yuyan, and Miss Shang. Princess Chen was in a bad mood, so she found such a lantern to enjoy. If it were you, she wouldn't be so useless. The servant girl flattered. The servant girl flattered. Although she was flattering her, what she said was also true. Infanta Yuan wanted to take revenge as soon as she was bullied. Princess Chen was really too weak. Infanta Yuan did not answer. Suddenly, she felt a light bulb go off in her head. She immediately made up her mind. What happened in the princess mansion must have been done by Zhang Qilan or Xiang Zhang. Xiao Wanru didn't have enough manpower or ability. She looked powerful, but she was actually weak in reality. It was impossible for her to succeed. Xiao Wanru didn't have the right time, the right place, the right people, and the right temperament. Zhang Qilan. Infanta Yuan gnashed her teeth. Since she was sure that it was Zhang Qilan, she would not be polite. Prince Chen didn't find anything, but it didn't mean that she couldn't. She was hurt like this, but Zhang Qilan didn't do anything. How could she let Zhang Qilan get what she wanted? End of this chapter. Chapter 1189. Love to Read divided by 5200 will provide you with wonderful novels to read. Update the latest chapter on medical skills of the Crown Princess as soon as possible. Xiao Wanru sat upstairs, watched Infanta Yuan, Anne's maid, climb into the carriage, and then watched the carriage leave. She picked up a cup of tea at hand, took a sip, and slightly raised the corners of her mouth. With the sound of footsteps, Yujie and Qing entered the door one after another. Seeing Yujie's messy hair, Xiao Wanru couldn't help laughing. She had prepared for this and asked Qing to comb Yujie's hair again. Your Highness, that miss is really too much. She is very rude and ruthless. She doesn't look like someone from the capital city. I don't know where she came from. How could she be so rude? After combing Yujie's hair, Yujie stepped forward and said aggrievedly, reaching out to pull her lapel. In just a short while, her lapel was torn. Well, it's over, Xiao Wanru said indifferently. She had asked Yujie to find a person who looked rude and made some trouble. She had thought that it would not be easy to find her. Unexpectedly, when she went downstairs, she found one opposite her. Although Yujie intended to find a rude person, it was really an accident to meet this one. Yujie really thought that the pair of lanterns were good and wanted to buy them and send them here. Unexpectedly, when she was about to pay for them, she met such a person. Yujie simply quarreled with her first and waited until Infanta Yuan Anne's carriage came before she made a move and made the matter worse. Your Highness, I don't think that person is easy to compromise. She might do something bad to you. Yujie said. That miss was not a kind person and kept saying that she would kill anyone. It could be seen that she was not only capricious but also had a bad temperament. It doesn't matter. Xiao Wanru shook her head carelessly. She really didn't take this matter seriously. The reversal of the princess's mansion would inevitably make many people suspicious. Of course, Zhang Lanqi and herself were the most suspicious ones. Infanta Yuan and Princess Yuyan had suffered such a big loss, so how could they give up? It would make them feel that they were useless, strong in appearance, but weak in reality, and needed Chu Liuchen's support, which would make them clear of some suspicion. If they were in a bad mood, it would show that they also felt aggrieved, but they couldn't find the person who framed them. Although Princess Yuan and Princess Yu Yan were not good at accomplishing anything, they were more than capable of ruining things. Is Princess Yuan here? Princess Yu Yan said through gritted teeth as she lay on the bed. I won't see her. Her buttocks were bitten, and she was hurt from the fall. Her heart was burning with anger. You don't want to see Princess Yuan? Princess Yu Tao raised her eyebrows and asked calmly. Since that's the case, I'll get someone to throw her out. As he said this, he waved his hand to summon a servant and was about to give the order. Wait. Princess Yu Yan suddenly stopped him. Princess Yu Tao turned around and waited for her explanation. Princess Yu Yan suppressed the anger in her heart and explained, I don't think Princess Yuan is trying to harm me this time. It could be, I don't care. It's between you and Commandery Princess Yuan. Since you don't care, let her in. Princess Yu Tao stood up and said casually. She looked down at Princess Yu Yan and said, you can't change the fact that you're going to marry into Commandery Prince Qing's mansion. You're the princess of our Su kingdom. No matter how bad you are, you can't just be a side concubine, right? If you can only be a side concubine, father will definitely give up on you. A princess of a kingdom, even if she was a princess of a small kingdom, was not to be trifled with. However, the Su kingdom couldn't say anything about this matter. Princess Yu Yan's actions were not clean. At this moment, the envoy of the Su kingdom and Princess Yu Tao couldn't say anything for her. They could only swallow their anger. Now, the key to becoming Commandery Prince Qing's concubine depended on Chu Qing. Don't worry, big sister. I'll talk to Chu Qing about this and ask for the position of Commandery Prince Qing's concubine. Princess Yu Yan was both embarrassed and angry, as if her most unbearable side had been seen by Princess Yu Tao. In the past, she had always behaved in front of Princess Yu Tao, and from the bottom of her heart, she felt that Princess Yu Tao was beneath her. She did not expect that one day, Princess Yu Tao would see her in such a sorry state. That's for the best. As for Princess Yuan, then, you can do whatever you want. Princess Yu Tao was not willing to stay either. After saying this, she turned and left. The palace maids from the Su kingdom all knew that the two princesses did not have a good relationship. They all lowered their heads and did not dare to move. When Princess Yuan came in, she saw Princess Yu Yan lying awkwardly on the bed. She knew that it was very inconvenient for her. She took 2 steps forward and bowed deeply to Princess Yu Yan, who was lying on the bed with a dark face. Princess Yu Yan, what happened that day really has nothing to do with our manner. I can't really get a dog to bite you because I want to deal with you. This will not do me any good. She came straight to the point and showed her sincerity. Princess Yu Yan wanted to smash Princess Yuan's face with something and break that pretty little face. If she hit her head, she would bleed. Princess Yuan, you really didn't want to hurt me? Princess Yu Yan suppressed her anger and asked coldly. I, Yuan, have never wanted to hurt you. If you don't believe me, I can swear. Princess Yuan stretched out her hand. She pointed to the sky and directly swore. Seeing her swear without hesitation, Princess Yu Yan's expression softened, but she still sneered and asked, if it's not you, then please tell me, Princess Yuan, who else has the ability to send people to Ruiping Great Elder Princess's residence, and who has the ability to injure me like this in your residence? Our manor is indeed not a place that ordinary people can infiltrate. However, if it's the Prime Minister, then it's possible. Commandery Princess Yuan had thought a lot on her way here. She connected the little things that she didn't care about before. Grandmother said that this mansion was given to us by grandmother when she left the palace. At that time, Prime Minister Zhang was already in the Ministry of Works. If someone had done something to it at that time, it wouldn't be obvious now. Originally, it was just a guess. Now, she was 90% sure that it had something to do with Prime Minister Zhang's manor. You mean Prime Minister Zhang's manor? Princess Yu Yan frowned and asked. Yes, Prime Minister Zhang's manor. Princess Yuan nodded with certainty. Come on, give the princess a seat. Princess Yu Yan called. Immediately, a palace maid came over and put a chair in front of the bed. Princess Yuan thanked her with a smile and sat down. Princess, who do you think is the most important person in this matter and who will benefit in the end? Princess Yuan asked. Benefit? Princess Yu Yan frowned more and more. Is it Princess Chen or Miss Zhang of Prime Minister Zhang's manor? Princess Yu Yan thought about what happened that day for a long time, but she still had no clue. It should be impossible for her and Princess Yuan to be together. There were only Princess Chen and Miss Zhang. However, she couldn't figure out which part went wrong. She clearly saw Zhang Qilan's people bring her, but why was Xiao Wanru fine? Why did Zhang Qilan bring her to her room? Thinking of this, her eyes suddenly lit up. Nothing happened to Zhang Qilan, and she even gave people the impression that we wanted to frame her and Princess Chen. Should Princess Chen thank her? She has always had a good relationship with Princess Chen, or Princess Chen thinks that she has always had a good relationship with her. Xiao Wanru seems to be a smart person, but I didn't expect her to be so stupid. Zhang Qilan has been jealous of her for a long time, but she doesn't know it and treats Zhang Qilan as her sister. Princess Yuan sneered. Zhang Qilan got all the benefits, but the two of us ended up like this. As for Princess Chen, she is neither good nor bad. In fact, Prime Minister Zhang's manor also knows that the princess came to my manor this time. Why? Princess Yu Yan looked at her with wide eyes. Why does Prime Minister Zhang's manor know so much about your manor? It was also an accident. One of my sisters accidentally revealed it. She was originally discussing marriage with the young master of Prime Minister Zhang's manor. If I hadn't asked, I wouldn't have known about it. That day, they talked about the princess coming to the manor, Princess Yuan, and said. Thinking of this, it was true. Princess Yu Yan was no longer calm. She turned over and subconsciously wanted to sit up, but she didn't know where she hit. She immediately cried out in pain and her face twitched. Princess Yuan hurriedly stepped forward and supported her body. She asked in a low voice, "How is the princess? You are seriously injured. I brought good medicine today. You will definitely get better soon after you use it. My grandmother asked me to come today to apologize to you. Since this happened in our manor, it's our own fault for not being strict enough and hurting the princess." Great Elder Princess had taken responsibility for what happened in Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion. What about what happened in the princess's mansion? Thinking of this, Princess Yu Yan's anger towards Princess Yuan was much calmer. Previously, she felt that Princess Yuan was really hateful for hurting her that day. Now, she felt that at that time, she couldn't do anything. If she wanted to blame someone, she could only blame Zhang Qilan. It was Zhang Qilan who did something. Both she and Princess Yuan were in trouble. Your Highness, Prince Zhou had already chosen one concubine, and I was the first one to choose a concubine. But now, he chose 3 more concubines. 5 concubines entered the mansion at the same time, and the concubines were all noble ladies. Even I might not be able to control them. Infanta Yuan's eyes turned red. She really resented this matter. Although this was an act, it was also her real thoughts. She really resented Zhang Qilan. When she mentioned this matter, she gritted her teeth. She wished that Zhang Qilan could also receive the same treatment. Zhang Qilan had bad intentions. Why should she be treated well? Just because she was Prime Minister Zhang's daughter? Prince Yu had been visiting her, as if she was the one who was really wronged. What do you want? When Princess Yu Yan saw Princess Yuan's expression, she knew that she wanted revenge. After thinking about it, she asked tentatively. Her heart was also burning and uncomfortable. She would feel uncomfortable if she didn't vent her anger. The two of them could be considered to have hit it off. It was like this at the beginning, and it was still like this now. Each had their own thoughts and ideas. Even if they joined hands, they also had their own plans. End of this chapter. Chapter 1190. Love to Read divided by 5200 will provide you with wonderful novels to read. Update the latest chapter of the Crown Princess's medical skills as soon as possible. Princess, are you still willing to see Prince Yu? Infanta Yuan thought for a moment and asked. So what if I see Prince Yu? He can't really marry me. I heard that he is deeply in love with the miss of the Zhang mansion. He goes to see her every day because he is worried about her. Princess Yu Yan said angrily. She felt sour and jealous. Chu Luyue had expressed his love for her that day. Why hadn't he come to see her? She was still hoping that Chu Luyue would come to her. Princess, Prince Yu can't marry you. Infanta Yuan sighed and reminded Princess Yu Yan. Princess Yu Yan's face was blue and cold. She said disdainfully, Prince Yu is nothing. It's not like there's no one else but him. Infanta Yuan's heart suddenly jumped. Did this dissolute Princess Yu Yan fall in love with Prince Zhou again? Princess, although Prince Yu can't marry you, he has no malice towards you. If you ask him to come over and ask him something, he will definitely come. Infanta Yuan hinted. Why ask him to come? Since it's useless, why don't he come? He's really useless. He can't even decide who he wants to marry. Even if our Su kingdom wants to marry a crown princess, we have to be satisfied. Princess Yu Yan snorted coldly. Although it may not be useful, Zhang Qilan is going to marry Prince Yu. If Prince Yu treats you well, Zhang Qilan will definitely be unhappy. Infanta Yuan hinted. Princess Yu Yan thought for a moment and shook her head. It's not convenient for me to ask him to come over. Princess Yu Yan can't. You can ask Princess Yu Tao to invite him. Prince Yu welcomed you into the city. Now there are some things that I can trouble Prince Yu with. Infanta Yuan said with a smile. Big sister is impatient with these trivial things. Princess Yu Yan still shook her head. Princess Yu Tao was not on good terms with her. How could Princess Yu Tao help her now? Princess Yu Yan is only in the name of the first princess, but in fact, she still wants to see you. You can start with Zhang Qilan. Prince Yu will be willing to see you. Infanta Yuan reminded her. Princess Yu Yan's eyes brightened. Zhang Qilan's matter was indeed the best starting point. She had to let Prince Yu see what kind of woman the woman he was going to marry was. Okay, I will invite Prince Yu to come over, but this is not enough. Zhang Qilan caused Prince Yu and I to be unable to be together. Princess Yu Yan, who had made up her mind, already had a plan in her heart. It was difficult for her to justify what had happened that day, and neither could Zhang Qilan. Let's discuss how to do it. It's best to investigate the matters in your house clearly. Is there really no loophole for Zhang Qilan to exploit? Princess Yu Yan was unwilling to give up. She waved to Princess Yuan and motioned for her to come closer. Both of them had suffered such a big loss this time. Neither of them was able to suffer a loss. If they hadn't been caught off guard at that time, how could things have come to this point? They would not let go of Zhang Qilan and Prince Yu. Princess Yuan did not stay at Princess Yu Yan's place for a long time. She returned to the mansion not long after. Her wounds had not healed, and after walking one round, she did not have any strength left. Originally, she was going to rest when she heard that Prince Zhou had come to the mansion. Her heart was filled with joy, and she raised her spirits to see her grandmother. Chu Liuzhou was talking with Ruiping Great Elder Princess. When he saw Infanta Yuan come in, he narrowed his eyes slightly to hide the displeasure in his eyes. The smile on his face became much gentler. His mother sent a letter asking him to win over Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion. After such a trip. After Infanta Yuan met Ruiping Great Elder Princess, she also sat down. Ruiping Great Elder Princess gave an excuse to leave so that they could talk in private. Your Highness, why do you have time to come here today? Infanta Yuan pulled the handkerchief in her hand, lowered her head, and said reproachfully. She was indeed wronged. She had hoped to see Prince Zhou by the bed when she woke up, but she didn't expect to see him until a few days after she woke up. You're hurt. I should have come here early, but my father is very angry these days. He gets very angry when he mentions you. I'm afraid that I will make trouble for you, so I deliberately come here a few days later. Chu Liuzhou said with a smile. His words made Infanta Yuan feel a little better. But when she thought that she would soon have several concubines, she was very jealous. I thought you were too busy to come here because you were going to marry more concubines. Infanta Yuan continued to pull the handkerchief in her hand hard. How could it be? No matter how many women there are, only you are my wife. Only your children are my descendants and will inherit everything of mine in the future. Chu Liuzhou was very easy to talk to today, and he was not as reckless as he used to be. He looked at Infanta Yuan with a very gentle smile. Infanta Yuan's heart was well touched, and her grievances and annoyance in the past few days suddenly disappeared a lot. She and Chu Liuzhou were childhood sweethearts, and she knew that Chu Liuzhou was not a good person. Now that he comforted her gently, it could be seen that he really cared about her. Her eyes turned red, and she wiped the corners of her eyes with a handkerchief. Your Highness, do you know who spoiled things that day? Who? Chu Liuzhou frowned. He hadn't found any clues up to now. Infanta Yuan was the one who should know the most. Prime Minister Zhang and Zhang Qilan, or even Prince Yu. Infanta Yuan gritted her teeth and spat on Chu Luyue. In front of Princess Yuyan, she didn't say anything about Chu Luyue, so she naturally had no scruples at this time. What do you mean? Chu Liuzhou asked after thinking for a while. Your Highness, it is absolutely true that Princess Yuyan likes Prince Yu, and Prince Yu has indeed responded. I'm afraid that Prime Minister Zhang knows something, so he and Zhang Qilan set up such a trap to trap Princess Yuyan. Even I was not spared, causing your Highness to lose face. Commandery Princess Yuan said with hatred. When Zhang Qilan was in the mansion that day, she obviously wanted to hurt Xiao Wanru, but I don't know why she didn't send her into Xiao Wanru's room. Instead, it seemed that she was hurt. She benefited the most from this, and Xiao Wanru may not know it. Infanta Yuan now believed in Zhang Qilan. It had something to do with Chu Luyue. Chu Liuzhou was concerned about this. Zhang Qilan was now Chu Liuyue's fiancée and Prime Minister Zhang's daughter. If Zhang Qilan was hurt, it might hurt Chu Luyue, and even make Prime Minister Zhang and Chu Luyue fall out. This was what Chu Liuzhou was most concerned about. What should I do? Chu Liuzhou asked. Cause a fight between Prince Chen's mansion and Prince Yu's mansion, and let Xiao Wanru know about it. Prince Chen is protective of his shortcomings. So what if Prime Minister Zhang protects him? Infanta Yuan said indignantly. As for Prince Yu, Princess Yuyan had already planned to send a few charming palace maids there. Although the foreign women were not the best looking, at least they had the charm of a foreign country, which could confuse Prince Yu. Okay. Chu Liuzhou thought for a while and agreed. He turned to look at Infanta Yuan's resentful face and narrowed his eyes slightly. His mother said that Yuan could help him. Trust her again. There can be no more mistakes in this matter. Your Highness, don't worry. There won't be any mistakes this time. With Princess Yuyan's help, she will only find out about Prince Yu. Infanta Yuan sneered. She didn't like either Zhang Qilan or Princess Yuyan, and it happened to be a good opportunity for them to confront each other. As for Xiao Wanru, it was the best to get her involved. She told Chu Liuzhou everything she had discussed with Princess Yuyan just now. Chu Liuzhou nodded repeatedly and finally looked at Infanta Yuan with a very kind expression. You haven't fully recovered yet. Be careful. Don't hurt yourself because of this. If you have married me now, I can protect you a little bit. Now you can only rely on yourself. I will definitely make it up to you in the future. Hearing this and seeing Chu Liuzhou's concerned eyes, Infanta Yuan was filled with tenderness. She unconsciously showed a smile on her face and became gentle. Although those women had extraordinary backgrounds, it didn't matter if they married her. Her relationship with Prince Zhou was incomparable to theirs. What was more, compared with those women, she was the most useful one. Her grandma said that people like Prince Zhou valued strength more. As the legal princess and the future empress, she should be magnanimous. Prince Zhou couldn't only have one woman. Of course, as the legal princess, she had the final say on how many children he would have in the future. Infanta Yuan was full of joy and was already thinking about whether Chu Liuzhou's women could have children in the future. Xiao Wanru went to Rui Great Elder Princess's mansion. She heard that Rui Great Elder Princess was not feeling well, so she specially came to have a look. After chatting with Rui Great Elder Princess for a while, she heard someone outside reporting that her mother had come to see her. Grandma, why is she here again? Xiao Wanru asked with a faint look in her eyes. She said that it's about your brother Hao, Rui Great Elder Princess said unhappily. She really didn't give up and went to see Hao, Xiao Wanru said with a sneer. She gave her mother a chance that day because she wanted to see how far this woman could go. It didn't take long for her to find Hao, She gave Hao, a bracelet used by your mother and said that it was left by your mother at that time, Rui Great Elder Princess said. Then why is she here now? She gave your brother a bracelet used by your mother and said that she found some old things of your mother and would send them here. How came back and told me about it, so I asked her to send them directly to the mansion next time. Now there should be some more sent here. I don't know why she, as a maid, left so many things of your mother. Rui and Great Elder Princess explained. Xiao Wanru's heart skipped a beat. She clenched the handkerchief in her hand tightly and then let it go little by little. Such a thought made her palms wet with sweat and her face change dramatically. Zhuozhuo, what's wrong with you? Rui and Great Elder Princess noticed her reaction immediately. She reached out to hold her hand and felt a trace of dampness in the handkerchief in her hand. She hurriedly asked, do you feel uncomfortable? Do you want Dr. Xian to come and have a look? Rui and Great Elder Princess had a lingering fear that Xiao Wanru vomited like that for no reason when she went to Marquis Xing's mansion. Grandma, I'm fine. I want to see my mother. Can I? Xiao Wanru restrained the horror in her eyes, raised her pale face, and asked softly. No one knew the shock in her heart. End of this chapter. Chapter 1191. Love to read. 5200 will provide you with wonderful novels to read. Update the latest chapter on medical skills of the Crown Princess as soon as possible. Yi and Yang had been waiting in the living room for a while. It had been almost 2 hours, but Great Elder Princess didn't send anyone to tell her anything. She couldn't help feeling confused and even hesitant. The room was very quiet, and she was alone. She couldn't see anyone outside the window, but she knew that there were 2 maids standing at the door. If she left now, she might not be able to. In fact, she really didn't think about it today. At this time, Great Elder Princess didn't want to see her, which made her breathe a sigh of relief. The door was suddenly pushed open. Seeing Xiao Wanru's delicate little face behind the door, Yang was inexplicably flustered. She had an indescribable feeling and subconsciously took 2 steps back. She would rather see Rui and Great Elder Princess than Princess Chen. Compared with Rui and Great Elder Princess, Princess Chen was more difficult to deal with. At such a young age, she couldn't tell what she was thinking. Her beautiful eyes seemed to be very clear, but they always made people unable to see through them. Seeing Xiao Wanru coming over, Yang hurriedly put away her thoughts and stepped forward to say respectfully, Greetings, Princess Chen. No. Xiao Wanru said lightly and sat down in the upper position. Her watery eyes fell on Yang and she frowned slightly. The faint scrutiny made Yang more and more uncomfortable. Do you know Miss Gu? After a long while, she heard Xiao Wanru's question. Only then did Yang feel relaxed, and the feeling of being scrutinized immediately reduced a little. My carriage collided with Miss Gu's carriage. Miss Gu didn't blame me. She is a kind-hearted person, so she asked me to talk with her for a while and talked about some past events, Yang said. She remembered it very well. No matter who asked her in the future, she would say the same. Past events? Xiao Wanru raised her eyebrows. Yang lowered her head and didn't dare to look at her clear and beautiful eyes. Miss Gu said that her family had contacts with the Imperial Censor's family. Because of their contacts, they had a common topic, which could more confirm her identity. Of course, this fake identity was found by Rui and Great Elder Princess. In order to confirm this identity, Yang increasingly put on airs of an old Imperial Censor's daughter in front of others. But this didn't work in front of Xiao Wanru. This person knew the inside story from the start. The more he thought about it, the more uncomfortable he felt. I heard that you gave Hao a bracelet that his mother once wore. Where did you get it? Xiao Wanru didn't ask any more and changed the topic. Yang breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly said with a smile, this was bestowed by the Commandery Princess. I have been keeping it. That day, I remembered that I originally wanted to send it to the Great Elder Princess's residence. However, I was afraid that it would disturb the Great Elder Princess, so I specially went to find the little heir and asked him to help me send it in. It was a legitimate reason, a legitimate action, and everything was legitimate. The whole purpose was to get familiar with Xiao Yuanhao and his surroundings. This was the purpose that the Marquis had given her. She also had her own selfish motives. That was why she sent some of the commandery princess's old clothes over. It was not Master Ho's idea to send the old clothes. She was even afraid that Master Ho would find out, so she secretly came over. Xiao Wanru's eyes fell on a blue package placed aside by her, and she looked a little strange. Are these my mother's old things you brought? They are some of the old things that the commandery princess used to wear. I keep them as a souvenir. That day, I saw that the little heir missed the commandery princess so much, so I specially packed some of them and brought them over. Yi Nyang said with a hollow smile. Xiao Wanru reached out her hand. Yu Jie stepped forward, put the package on the table in front of her, and untied the strong knots on it. There weren't many things inside. There were 2 sets of old clothes that looked a little old, but the material was still good. It was obvious that they weren't something an ordinary person could afford to wear. Along with the clothes, there was a pair of small earrings. The earrings weren't very big, and there were 3 round pearls hanging from the earrings. This was her mother's relic. She had seen it on the map. It was one of the lost objects of Marquis Xing's mansion. At that time, old Madame repeatedly said that this object was lost. Like the previous bracelets, these are all given to me by the commandery princess. I have been reluctant to give them away, so I carefully put them away. Yi Nyang carefully looked at Xiao Wanru's expression. Seeing that Xiao Wanru looked gentle and only the corners of her eyes were slightly red, she breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. No matter how smart Xiao Wanru was, it didn't matter. After all, they were mother and daughter. This could be used on the little heir, great elder princess and Princess Chen in front of her. She had to make good use of the resources of great elder princess's mansion and let great elder princess protect her sincerely. Even if the Marquis didn't want her to be the principal wife, with great elder princess's support, she could still be a co-wife. The Marquis's way was the Marquis's way, and her way was her own. When necessary, she could rely on Rui and great elder princess, and there might be unexpected surprises. Are these the clothes mother wore in the capital city or in Jiangzhou? Xiao Wanru asked, gently stroking a corner of the clothes with her fingers, and her eyes were soft. These are the clothes you wore in the capital city. When you were in Jiangzhou, you didn't pay much attention to them, Yi Nyang said. Xiao Wanru raised her head and glanced at Yi Nyang. There seemed to be waves in her eyes that she couldn't understand, but in the end, she suppressed them and calmed them down. Yi Nyang is loyal to mother. I will remember it. Thank you, Your Highness. This is what I should do. Even for the sake of the princess, I can't absolve myself of guilt even if I die 10,000 times. Yi Nyang said gratefully and seemed to be moved to tears. She was really excited. If she could make Princess Chen lower her guard against her and treat her sincerely, she would be much more useful than Rui and great elder princess. How is your matter? Xiao Wanru took the tea from Chu Lu, took a sip, and asked slowly. Old Madam doesn't want me to marry into the mansion. The Marquis is persuading Old Madam and Madam Jiang. Yi Nyang hesitated for a moment, looked at Xiao Wanru, and suddenly stopped talking, as if she was unwilling to say more. But what's the problem? No problem. Don't worry, Your Highness. I don't have any problem. Yi Nyang hurriedly shook her head. Is there really no problem? Xiao Wanru didn't believe it. Your Highness. I just want to avenge the princess as soon as possible. Madam Jiang. Madam Jiang treats the princess so badly that I can't wait to find her immediately. Yi Nyang wiped away her tears and was extremely sad and indignant for her old master. Madam Jiang doesn't want you to marry into the mansion. Xiao Wanru immediately found the key point and asked. How can Madam Jiang let me marry into the mansion? She may have noticed something. She hurt the princess, and I want to avenge her. Yi Nyang was extremely angry and gnashed her teeth. Do you need my help? Xiao Wanru said lightly. Yi Nyang looked timidly. She looked at Xiao Wanru with her eyes full of expectation, but she stammered, if Your Highness can say, it would be best, but but your highness may not be able to meet Madame Jiang. Moreover, if you meet Madame Jiang, I am afraid that you will not get along with her. Forget it. This kind of expectant and hesitant expression perfectly interpreted Yi Yang's meaning. Okay, I got it. If there is a chance, I will say it for you. Xiao Wanru waved her hand. Thank you, Your Highness. Thank you, Your Highness. Yi Yang was overjoyed. It was really a surprise that Princess Chen agreed to intercede for her. Sure enough, the princess's old clothes were better. You can leave now. If you find some of my mother's old things in the future, take them all. I will reward you handsomely. Xiao Wanru said lightly. Yes, I know. I know. I will look for them again. Maybe I can find something else. Yi Yang nodded repeatedly. You can leave now. Yes, Your Highness. I will leave now. Yi Yang hurriedly stopped when she was ahead and left. When she got to the door, she looked at the sky outside and couldn't help showing a smile on her face. Then she left slowly. In contrast to her, Xiao Wanru's face turned cold in the room. She reached out to pick up the pair of earrings placed aside and looked at them carefully. As expected, they were her mother's earrings. Such earrings were custom-made and had their own records. Did they fall into Xiao Jing's hands because of Zhang's greed and finally become Yi Yang's? This was unlikely. Zhang's must keep a close eye on such an object and would never let Xiao Jing take it away. Besides, Xiao Jing would not give such an object to his mistress. Even if he bought some new ones, they would be better than this kind of engraved ones. Keeping a mistress did not require such good jewelry, nor did she need jewelry that could easily expose her identity and arouse Zhang's anger. Was it really the jewelry that her mother gave her? Yi Yang was an ordinary servant girl, and she was not a servant girl of Marquis Xing's mansion as her mother's dowry. Therefore, she did not know that this kind of engraved jewelry would only be left to her children and would not be given to others. How could her mother really give it to her? The first idea was not the engraved jewelry, but the second idea was also reasonable. Then Yi Yang took it off from her mother's ears. If this was the case, did it mean that, the conjecture in her heart became more and more clear. Xiao Wanru's heart beat wildly as if it was about to jump out. She held the thick corner of the parcel with her hand and suppressed the shock in her heart. She hoped that it was true, but she felt that it was unlikely. Let's go to see Grandma. Only her grandma could solve her doubts. Of course, while solving her doubts, she would not tell her grandma the inside story for the time being, lest she rejoiced in vain. If her mother was really alive, if those candles were really effective and had been effective for a long time, were some things not absolute? But she felt that these things were too ridiculous. How could it be possible? She went out in a hurry and almost hit the door frame on one side. If Yujia hadn't pulled her quickly, she would have directly hit her head and fainted. If she hadn't hit her head now, she would also be dizzy. Grandma, she was going to see her grandma, as if only in this way could she confirm this conjecture. End of this chapter. Chapter 1192. Love to read. 5200 will provide you with wonderful novels to read. Update the latest chapter on medical skills of the Crown Princess as soon as possible. This is. Seeing the earrings in Xiao Wanru's hand, Nanny Gao screamed in a low voice. Rui and Great Elder Princess looked sad, but she didn't change much. She just murmured, "This is your mother's earrings." After saying that, her eyes were red. She turned her head in a hurry to hide the gaff in her eyes. Grandma, my mother's earrings were not on the list given by Marquis Xing's mansion at that time. It was said that no one knew where they went. Xiao Wanru said. Maybe they were lost or given to a servant girl. Seeing her daughter's relics again, Rui and Great Elder Princess was extremely sad. The grief in her heart couldn't be suppressed and rushed up in waves. There was only her daughter's figure in her mind. She vaguely seemed to see her daughter still looking at her coquettishly and acting coquettishly beside her. Great Elder Princess, it's not like this, it's not like this. Nanny Gao had already burst into tears. Xiao Wanru turned her eyes to Nanny Gao, suppressed the excitement in her heart, and asked slowly, Nanny Gao, tell me. Her grandma couldn't rely on the current situation, so she had to ask Nanny Gao. Great Elder Princess, this is the earrings worn by the Infanta at that time. Nanny Gao cried uncontrollably. The scene at that time reappeared in front of her. When Great Elder Princess saw the Infanta had no breath, and Great Elder Princess fainted. But Nanny Gao saw clearly that the Infanta was wearing this pair of earrings at that time. Nanny Gao, did you see it clearly? Xiao Wanru looked at Nanny Gao deeply, and there was an irrepressible coldness in her eyes. She held the handkerchief tightly with her fingers and almost crushed it in her hand. Your Highness, I saw it clearly. This pair of earrings was worn by the Infanta at that time. At that time, the Infanta was dressed in plain clothes, and only the 2 rubies on it were very conspicuous. I saw them at a glance. But at that time, Great Elder Princess fainted, and I went to take care of her. After that, Marquis Xing's mansion closed the coffin. They were closed at that time. Xiao Wanru was shocked and her lips turned pale. Yes, although I was in a hurry to take Great Elder Princess away, I still took another look at her. Madam of Marquis Xing ordered someone to close the coffin. After that, Great Elder Princess fell ill. I was afraid that Great Elder Princess would be sad when she thought of Infanta, so I didn't mention it again. Gao Momo wiped her tears with a handkerchief. The Great Elder Princess, who was lying on the bed, was already crying uncontrollably. Even though it had been a long time, she did not dare to recall this part of her daughter's past. She even subconsciously forgot that she still had her grandson and granddaughter. She only needed to protect them. Xiao Wanru composed herself and said slowly, that is to say, this pair of earrings should have been buried with my mother. It should not have appeared in my mother's hands, nor should it have been given to her by my mother. At this time, Great Elder Princess seemed to wake up. She suddenly raised her head and said in a hoarse voice, it can't be your mother who gave it to her. Such earrings can't be given to a servant. With the map, giving this kind of jewelry to a maid is not good for her, but harming her. This mother must have done it for another reason. Great Elder Princess must have experienced it. Xiao Wanru and Nanny Gao's words reminded her again and again, which made her sober up and slowly come back to consciousness. Grandma, under what circumstances do you think the pair of earrings would fall into the hands of a maid? Xiao Wanru asked. It's impossible for her to take it out secretly. She is just a maid. No matter how much Xiao Jing dotes on her, it's impossible for him to allow her to steal your mother's earrings. As for Marquis Xing's mansion, even Madame of Jiang would not do such a thing. For a pair of earrings, they reopened the coffin and secretly took it out. If it was discovered, the entire Marquis Xing's mansion would be guilty. Neither Xiao Jing nor Madame of Jiang would do this. Great Elder Princess wiped her tears and said. Both Xiao Jing and Madame of Jiang were scheming people. Although they were greedy for money, they would not do such a thing. If it was discovered, the entire Marquis Xing's mansion would be doomed eternally. At that time, whether Xiao Jing or Madame of Jiang would be punished, they would not want to see it. There must be a reason. Zhuozhuo, don't worry. I'll check on this mother. Great Elder Princess said again. At present, the most important thing was Xiao Jing. Grandma, when I saw Anyang just now, I deliberately ignored her for a while. She seemed to be very uneasy and walked around the room from time to time. She even looked at the door a few times. She seemed to want to leave. Xiao Wanru rolled her eyes slightly and told Great Elder Princess what she had observed before. In fact, she had arrived early and watched Anyang's movements from an attic opposite the room. She seemed to be very flustered and became more and more flustered. It seemed that if there were not maids guarding at the door, she would leave. Since she had made up her mind to send these old things of her mother into the mansion, why did she hesitate? Xiao Jing had always been calm. Once he had made up his mind, he would complete it step by step. It was impossible for him to retreat after sending them in. Therefore, it was very likely that Enyang sent these things out of her own will in order to please her grandma. After calming down, she felt that it was inappropriate, so she wanted to leave in circles. Xiao Wanru's guess was true. Do you mean that this is Enyang's idea? Reminded by Xiao Wanru, Great Elder Princess immediately understood. She nodded with deep and dark eyes, gritted her teeth hard, and said, "This woman is so bold. Is it possible that she really opened the coffin and stole your mother's old things?" "It's impossible. Xiao Jing must have done it. It's impossible for his mother to do it. My mother was not powerful in Marquis Xing's mansion. Later, the situation was like that. How could a servant girl of her have such great ability to do it under everyone's nose? If someone really did it, there were only 3 people in the entire Marquis Xing's mansion." Xiao Wanru paused for a moment and then slowly reported the 3 people, Old Madam, Madam of Jiang, and Xiao Jing. Except for these people, she couldn't think of anyone else who had the ability to do it in Marquis Xing's mansion. Great Elder Princess calmed down, thought about it carefully, shook her head, and said, "It's impossible. It's impossible for the 3 of them to do that. It's just a pair of earrings. Although it's valuable, it's not very eye-catching for an aristocratic family like Marquis Xing's mansion, which has existed for such a long time. It's not worth burying a hidden danger for such a small thing." Xiao Wanru's heart beat wildly, and there seemed to be something that shocked her in her mind. She looked at Great Elder Princess and said in a faint voice that she could hardly hear clearly, "Grandma, do you think my mother is still alive?" "What?" Great Elder Princess didn't know what to say. Zhang Xian asked in astonishment. Nanny Gao heard it clearly and looked at Xiao Wanru in shock. Her lips trembled twice, but she couldn't say anything. "Grandma, do you think that if my mother didn't die at that time, and was taken out of the coffin later, the earrings would have been worn by her and my mother would have guarded my mother? Would the earrings fall into her hands? Xiao Jing wouldn't have noticed these small details." Xiao Wanru stared at Great Elder Princess and took a deep breath, as if this was the only way to support her. The irresolvable hatred, like a cold icicle, pierced her heart fiercely. There was a roar in her head, and something was collapsing. Candles. There were candles, weren't there? Xiao Yenru could fake her death in this way, but what about her mother? Was it possible? She had just guessed it before, but the pair of earrings sent by her mother made everything possible. None of the previous possibilities were true. What about this one? She reached out to hold the teacup. Her hand fell on the teacup and shook slightly, and the cup also made a sound. Rui and Great Elder Princess was stunned. She looked at Xiao Wanru blankly, as if she didn't hear her words clearly, but also seemed to have heard her words clearly. Her eyes were unfocused, and her lips were pale without a trace of blood. "Grandma, if nothing else is possible, what about this one?" Xiao Wanru's voice sounded lightly. Under her long eyelashes, her eyes were cold with a hint of blood. Her limbs and bones also became cold because of this sentence, like a frozen snowfield. Her mother was mentally abnormal at that time. If she was alive, she must have been guarded. With her mother's and Xiao Jing's temperament, how could they be good to her mother? They must want to get something from her. How could Xiao Jing treat his mother like this? His eyes were bloodshot. Not only Xiao Wanru, but also Great Elder Princess. Great Elder Princess supported herself on the edge of the bed and slowly straightened her body. Zhuozhuo, Enyang must know something. All the events were related to her mother. "Grandma, don't worry. I will hit her and make her tell everything in the end." Xiao Wanru raised the corner of her mouth sarcastically, narrowed her eyes slightly, and restrained the bloodshot color in her eyes. Didn't her mother want something? She would let her mother get it first and then lose everything. What secrets could her mother, who had become a stray dog, keep? Was it Xiao Jing's? Or her own? "I'll keep an eye on her, Grandma, I don't need your men. I have men to keep an eye on her." Xiao Wanru shook her head. Great Elder Princess's men were all ordinary people. They were unable to deal with this kind of thing, and it was easy for them to be discovered. It happened that she got a new team of secret guards, which was the best candidate. She wanted Xiao Jing and Madame Jiang to be doomed eternally. She took a deep breath, suppressed the blood in her heart, and said, "Grandma, I want to see Madame Jiang. If you go to see her directly, I'm afraid that you will attract attention." Great Elder Princess also calmed down and said, "Grandma, don't worry. I'm not in a hurry, but Xiao Jing will be. Doesn't he want to bring my mother into the mansion? Madame Jiang is his biggest obstacle. He will think of a way to invite me to see her," Xiao Wanru said sarcastically with her eyes dark and bottomless. She was waiting for Xiao Jing's idea. End of this chapter.